This for the niggas and bitches and niggas who be hitting them switches and pulling them triggers, who be crumbling weed and rolling them swishers. Keep on banging no corners and drinking that liquor. Keep that thug shit real when you fucking with me. Keep your sights on steel when you gunning for me. I put my pistol in your mouth and tell your ass to goggle. Gangsta shit so potent it should be sold in bottles. Take a sip and go to hell, get drunk and end up in the trunk. Fuck jail, you thinking DUI? No, that ain't how you die. It was my thugs and slugs that was the reason why. You niggas thought I was soft, but now it's blood that you caught. And now these shells hit the ground as I'm busting off. 9 double in Beretta, no there's nothing better. Tear the flesh in your chest and now your shirt is wetter. Me and this wild wild together like we husband and wife. Cause gangsta shit ain't just a song, it's a way of life. We are the thugs.
Yellow tape and bloodshed, pussy niggas is dead. Hollow points tipped with lead, putting gaps through head. That's what it be like when the street lights get to flickering. Niggas get to bickering and slugs get to tickling. We them niggas that just don't ask. We take your cash, transplant or put in your ass. Right hand to your left eye. Hey, Mr. Tough Guy, when slugs fly, I guarantee your shirt won't dry. In times of peace, my niggas playing wars. Stack dope, sit mowing, then we bang whores. We been through gang wars. We bout that green, we bout that murder scene. Pull a tool that's sure to leave your shoulders clean. Cause when it all goes down, I got that heat. You was slow on the draw and now you burn me. Because
we are the thugs. We're born to die. We also for money. For bitches and get high.
Real deep in the streets. We thugs and y'all niggas ain't shit but wannabes. It's love, but not for my fucking enemies. It's blood for my niggas. I was shorty bleed my blood for my niggas. I was shorty bleed. It's Gio, the same nigga that was ready for war, ready for fame and everything it had in store. And I ain't changed, I'm still on the block with my dog, smoking weed, busting shells, leaving the block for the fall. For my niggas who didn't get to see me achieve. Some died over beef and some died over greed. I'm smoking weed, I'm trying to get rid of the pain. Lord, please bless me to continue my thing. I'm from the streets and it's been a hard knock life. I'm in it deep and that's why I don't think nice. I don't sleep and that's why I don't like lights. I hold heat and that's why you won't blink twice.
We are the thugs. We're born to die. We also for money. For bitches and get high.
what y'all wanna bang with me, bust them things with me. You little bitch ass niggas can't hang with me. Why be the hood of the no good? Breaking your studio niggas down to the floor wood. I'm here to check the game, nigga, respect the name. Or I'ma pull my 4-5 out and select the brain, inject the pain, and leave you for the news to cover. Another victim of Mac Lover, wild motherfucker. Y'all ain't never seen a motherfucking street like me. Ballin' from the Midwest, bringing heat like me. So niggas make way, cause I'ma bring it to you hard. No mercy on your mark, so bow down to my facade and feel the pressure. A real thug from the streets, we do what we wanna do. Nigga, fuck the police, I'm the mouth of madness. Bringing the pain and the sadness, I be the baddest. Smoking niggas to the ashes, Alpha and Omega. Spitting raw from thug data. Dark as Darth Vader with the strength of the creator.
When it all goes down. When it all goes down, nigga. When it all goes down, talk to me.
When it all goes down, nigga. When it all goes down, talk to me.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life Woo! And I'm feeling good.
Y'all looking for me? Y'all looking for me? Well, here I is, baby! Ah! Yeah! Started a little different today. Let's go. Look here. I'm so glad to be back off of in this piece one more again. This is the Relationship Rehab. I am Brian Redmond, and welcome to the show. It's about to go down. I don't have 6 bottles of Chris. I don't have all the other shit Jay-Z was talking about, but I'm here and we about to get it cracking. Thank you guys for coming in. Please click the like button, click the subscribe button. If this is your first time watching, you are in for a treat because you're about to watch a hell of a show by a hell of a host on a hell of a night. What's good, everybody? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Let's go ahead and let's do what we came to do and get the show started. First and foremost, I just want to say I hope that everybody had a happy Thanksgiving, and I am wearing this t-shirt here. This is the Rumble in Russia. I'm wearing this because this was the only boxing memorabilia shirt that I could find that could just help me in just trying to, I'm trying to just pay my respects to Nate Robinson. Nate Robinson. Oh my God. Look, I know plenty of people took L's in 2020. Some people have checked out and not woke up. People done lost their jobs. I mean, there has been a lot that has happened in this year. I'm telling you right now, Nate Robinson can't go on social media until the new year. What happened to him last night, it's over for his social media career. He does not need to go live to apologize. He don't need to go live to tell what had happened. He don't need to go live to give shout outs and respect to nobody. He needs to stay off there. And then look, send this to Nate. Nate Robinson, look here, man. I appreciate the work you put in when you came to the Bulls for that short period of time. I'm just telling you like this, bro. I understand that this is America. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. But don't go online until 2021. Next time we should see you should be on the countdown into the new year. December 31st is the next time, Nate Robinson, you should go online, bro. The internet has been broken because of you. So I don't know how or why you decided to do what you did, but I believe that this should be a lesson to everybody. And somebody said it last night during the show. I mean, during the boxing match. Boxing ain't just a sport. It's a lifestyle. You don't just pick boxing up over the weekend. You don't just start boxing 2-3 months ago and then go ahead and box a professional fighter. You don't do it. And I don't know why he thought he could. Yes, Nate is athletic and he was cut up in his picture. He had his 12-pack going, all of that. But there is a science to boxing. It ain't just how fast you can jump. It ain't about how fast you can run, what your agility is, if you got juke moves or not. You could do a head fake or pump fake, if you could cut a route a certain way. This ain't that. You have to live and breathe boxing. And if you're going to get into boxing, don't think that after 2, 3, or 4 months, you can fight a professional boxer.
because you can't. He's going to embarrass you. Not even a professional boxer. Anybody who's been boxing longer than you shouldn't box them. I'm just telling you that. To anybody else that may get a bright idea that they want to start boxing, look, go to your local YMCA and fight them niggas. Go to somebody's backyard at a barbecue and fight them niggas. Don't go and get on a boxing ticket and your ass ain't never professionally boxed, because you're going to get embarrassed and you're going to go to sleep. That's what you're going to do. That's exactly what you're going to do. You saw what happened when Apollo Creed played around, and he was a goddamn professional boxer, and yes, it was just an exhibition, but he died, Nate. Nate Robinson. Even Apollo Creed died fucking around with a real boxer in an exhibition. It's an exhibition. Next thing you know, he was sitting there on that canvas, knocked the fuck out, and the last thing he probably heard was, if he dies, he dies. And that was it. And it took his son to come back some 25 years later to avenge his death. Had it not been for Michael B. Jordan standing up to avenge his daddy's death, Carl Weathers, we would still be taking that L. So just a word to the wise, Nate. Just stay, just do like Nate Dogg said. Lay low. You better lay low. You done walked in the ring and got knocked out, ding ding. Nigga, you better lay low. Just lay low until 2021 and then start at it again. Okay? I understand that you did what you did. Shout out to you for giving it a go, but you embarrassed yourself. You embarrassed men, and you embarrassed niggas across the world. It's not supposed to happen that way. I can get Deontay Wilder getting his ass beat because Deontay Wilder done beat ass. So, hey, that's just the law's averages. The shit caught up with him. But you ain't beat no ass, and you got your ass whipped, and you got your shit, you got your modem turned off. You went offline by a white boy, and it was terrible. You supposed to go the distance and maybe get knocked out at the end. You got knocked out 3 times. 3. As Birdman would say, all 3 of them times, you got put down. Don't do that to yourself no more. Black folks are struggling hard. We got more than enough struggles in our life than to have to deal with the shame of Nate Robinson. That's all I'm saying. We got more shit going on. We got a goddamn presidency that's just up for fucking grabs. We got black on black crime. We got niggas shooting niggas. We got too much going on in the world to have to deal with this too. It's too much. The Bears ain't shit. The Bulls ain't shit. The goddamn Cubs ain't shit. The fucking Sox ain't shit. It's too much going on in Chicago to have to deal with this here too. Jesus Christ, Nate. Think about the rest of us. Stop being so fucking selfish. All right, I had enough. I didn't get it in. Listen to my favorite part of the show.
Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion
You right,
pictures,
Crestline,
video
and the
tapes,
Black Hawks.
or video disc under certain circumstances without authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107.
Yes, Jack Badu Jack put on a fucking clinic, whipped plenty of ass, but it didn't matter because of Nate Robinson. Nate ruined it for everybody. He fucked up the whole goddamn thing. Nate Robinson overshadowed the whole fucking fight. I got to see Mike Tyson fight again. He looked good. Got to see fucking Roy Jones Jr. box again. He ran like he should have. He was smart. You see what Roy Jones Jr. did? Roy Jones Jr., he knew he was going into a cage with a goddamn tiger. And he carried himself like he was in a cage with a tiger. That's why he was doing this and doing that. He's doing this and doing that. He was running and then he's doing that. At one point, I thought I saw Roy doing this shit in the ring. Like, Mike, you ain't gonna catch me. Nope. I swear I did. He knew what to do. He was a boxer. He's a professional. He said it himself. I know who I'm getting in the cage with. Fuck all that. 53 years old, ain't fought in 15 years. Strength don't die in boxers. George Foreman proved that shit when he knocked the shit out of Michael Moore. George Foreman stayed in that ring with that motherfucking Michael Moore for 15 rounds or 12 rounds. And Michael Moore whooped the shit out of, put on a boxing clinic on George Foreman. Heavyweight bout. And that last round, you know what he did? Michael Moore got beside himself and say, I'm going to show these motherfuckers that I can go toe-to-toe with a motherfucker like George Foreman. And you know what happened? George Foreman and that motherfucker was asleep. Go look it up. George Foreman hit his ass. Literally, George Foreman was standing like this, and that motherfucker Michael Moore went toe-to-toe with him, and he took a few, and he was like, boop, boop. And Michael Moore was knocked out. Didn't fall down, got knocked the fuck out. Sleep like. When they show you the aerial footage of it, he had this mouthpiece, his mouth was open, and his lips was bleeding. And he was like, he knocked him the fuck out and became the heavyweight champion of the world. Just like that. As Mr. Yaddle would say, just like that. That's what he did. So it can happen. Don't fuck around with these boxers because these motherfuckers are real. Them niggas, they with the shits. They professionals. They scientists at this shit. Don't think that these boxers are just some dumb fucking jocks. They are not. Any boxer that has turned pro, even semi-pro, is a fucking a fucking technician. Wasn't one of the boxers' name last night the technician? They are technicians at this shit. I'm telling you. So just keep that shit in mind. The George Foreman grill is a classic American innovation. Right. George Foreman knocked Michael Moore ass out and went on to sell millions of fucking George Foreman grills, and is a fucking tycoon today because of it. So just keep that in mind. All right. Now that that's over, let's get into the show. So for those of you who may not have seen the title, or may have seen the title and got intrigued and said, hey, I wonder what the fuck this nigga about to talk about. I am going to talk about gun control. And I'm going to talk about it because I'm concerned about it. One of the things that I'm concerned about is the fact that most people, and I'm talking common people, people that are not, gun enthusiasts, people that are not gun guys or gun girls or pro 2A. These people have this notion of gun control, and essentially what most of them have, and what I've come to find out, most people who are not pro 2A, they tend to have a false sense of security when it comes to the Second Amendment and gun control. They think, or they have this notion, oh, it can't happen. Oh, it will never happen like that. When they hear the politicians say, we're not going to take your guns. We want you to keep your guns. We just want to use, I'm going to use the words of Barack Obama. We're going to use common sense gun laws. Well, when they say those types of things and they try to put those type of things out into the atmosphere and they speak that propaganda, it's all a ruse. It's all hype. It's the beginning part of the overlay for the underlay. Y'all know that, y'all hear me say that quite often. The overlay for the underlay. It's the shit they lay over your ass to make you feel all warm and fuzzy and nice and comfortable while they sneak their hand under their cover and finger bang you. That's what it is. The overlay for the underlay. You thinking that they taking care of you and they tucking you in to make you safe at night and make you feel good about yourself so you can have pleasant dreams. And as soon as they get you tucked in under that warm blanket and they turn the lights out, the molestation and the raping begins. So when I hear anything as far as gun control, common sense gun laws, and we're only gonna do this on these types of guns, it's a problem to me, and I believe that it should be a problem to all Americans, especially those of us that are broke, those of us that don't have money, those of us that don't have live in gated communities, those of us that don't have private security firms in our neighborhoods, those of us that don't have private security details like our politicians. So I believe that that is a problem, and I believe that it's an issue that everybody should be concerned about, not just Trump supporters, not just gun nuts, not just, oh, you a gun guy, not just our pro 2A's, not just us. It's a thing that everybody should be concerned about. So when you look at what has happened over the past 8 months with COVID-19, the science experiment, the social experiment that has taken place, and how all of these things have been changed, these laws, these rules, these mandates that have been put on just the American people, not even talking about the world globally, but just the American people. When you talk about all of those things and how they have come to be and come into effect, and it's been simply a thing of just saying, well, we have to do this to be safe. There's a small little caveat to this that has taken place, and there's a thing to where our civil liberties have been infringed upon, in case you didn't know that. All in the sake of COVID, all in the name of COVID, we've had laws put in place to where we can't go certain places. They're trying to put, and they've even had to take this case to the Supreme Court about masks, because they're trying to make masks mandatory. And it literally goes against our civil rights. Rights as an American, constitutional rights, whatever you want to call it, it's being infringed upon. They're trying to do it under the blanket of COVID, saying anything we do to y'all asses, we're doing it in the name of COVID safety. That's why we shut down the economy. That's why you can't go outside. That's why you can't go do this. You can't have a party. You can't have Thanksgiving. You can't have Christmas. You can't get on a plane. Don't go nowhere. Stay your black ass in the house. It's all in the name of COVID so we can save lives, which is a bunch of bullshit. But they're doing that to basically test the waters. This has been a plan for, just has been a plan in the making for years. And one of the things that has come into play now and will soon come into even bigger play will be gun control. And I just want to basically make us a stand and say, everybody that has talked about, kind of heard about, didn't really know, not too well versed, not too well educated about gun control, you need to be. Because just like how we've been talking about this election stuff and the voter fraud that is taking place, and you think because your side done won, it ain't no big deal. Well, I'm telling you, it is. And this is just as much as important as the voter fraud and shit that went on. So when you talk about these three things, all of the shit that is happening, taking place because of COVID, which has been a bunch of fucking propaganda, a bunch of shit that has changed from week to week, a bunch of shit that has been, the information and the data has not been accurate. They've literally lied. They've literally misspoke. They've literally gone back on what they were saying. They said this one week, changed it the next. Said this one month, changed it the next. When you have all of this stuff on here that's happening with just COVID, you see there's a bunch of shit that's not true. Then you take it to the gun control. Why are they starting to talk about gun control? Because everybody else has talked about gun control. When you look at these countries that have had issues with guns, had problems with guns, gotten rid of guns, it's all started the same exact way. Then when you look at voter fraud, the election, a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of lies, a bunch of incorrect data, a bunch of numbers. Everybody has their thumb on the scale with this shit. So when you're talking about COVID, it's a bunch of lies. You talk about the election, it's a bunch of lies. And now when you're talking about this gun control, it's going to be the same thing. And here's the thing, Kev, 504 gun control will never pass. That's not true. That's not true. Because here's the thing that you have to think about. If they pack the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court votes that shit the other way, you can change it. If they put in an executive order and that executive order goes against the Supreme Court, goes against the Constitution, it has to go to the Supreme Court. So when you're talking about saying it will never pass, look at Chicago. Right now in Chicago, they were the last city to actually give back the right to carry a gun in the city. You still can't carry or own an AR-15 in Chicago. Didn't know that, did you? You cannot own a 223 or 5.56 in the city of Chicago. So it's not a thing of it saying that they can't do it. It's a thing of saying, hey, it's unconstitutional. It's not right. Yeah, they did. But you can actually get around, put loopholes in. All you have to do is say it's for the safety of the people. The people want this. That's a part of the shit that's going on. Yeah. You can't have no AR-15 in motherfucking Chicago walking around and all that shit. No. No, you cannot. You can have a handgun now, but before that, you couldn't even have a handgun. The only thing that your ass could have in Chicago, and we talking about this shit just changed in the last 5 years. The only thing that your ass could have in Chicago was a fucking shotgun in the house on your property. That's it. You couldn't even walk up and down the streets with a shotgun. Yep. Can't order parts in Cook. Chicago is in Cook County. So what Wolf Bear is saying about Cook County, that's what we're talking about. That's in Chicago. Chicago is in Cook County. So you can go out to the other suburbs, Will County. You can go out there. You all good. Got no problem at all. But when your ass is in the city of Chicago, no Lord, Cook County, So it's like when you're talking about how there are ways to get around it, there are ways to get around it when people aren't aware of what's going on and people aren't actually fighting the good fight and making sure they're holding their politicians accountable. Because these motherfucking politicians, as you can see, hell, a lot of them aren't even stepping up for the election fraud shit that's going on in their own fucking areas, in their own fucking states, in their own fucking counties. They not even stepping up. They just being quiet. Clear indication of fraud. You get people saying this is what happened, that's what happened. No investigations. They just quiet. So imagine what will happen, like I said, exactly. What will happen to the Constitution if they pack the motherfucking courts? Those of you who don't know what court packing is, they're talking about is motherfucking how many Supreme Court justices right now? 9. They're talking about adding a whole nother 6. They can, and I think with adding that 6, they can like a 0.4. I believe they can like a 0.4, and then it would be 2 that would have to be voted on. So I'm telling you, you have to keep this shit in mind, and that's why I'm talking about this now, just to like educate people so that you will know what's actually what they're telling you and what you can actually see that has happened and that is happening now in other parts of the country. In other parts of the world, to show you that there is a blueprint for this shit. There is a blueprint for this shit to where this is how it starts, and this is what you slowly but surely do until you get it here, and then it's just all good. You ramp up, you rev it up, and then you just go full throttle and just go ahead and do it. Just like how they did with the election shit. Think about how they did the election. They told people you can't vote because of COVID. They told people what? Everybody needs to do a mail-in ballot, right? Everybody should just vote from the home, from the comforts of their own home. We gonna send everybody in the world, everybody in the country, mail-in ballots. That way you can just mail in your ballot and keep everybody safe. Then what happened? You had dead people voting. You had people voting twice. You have people that went in to vote and they were told, hey, you done already voted. You mailed in your ballot. Motherfucker, no, I didn't. I didn't even get no ballot. Well, your ballot is mailed in and it's been cast already. You can't vote. So what you thought it was and what you thought, yeah, they just trying to keep you from being sick, dog. They trying to keep people from dying, bro. What you thought it was, what it actually is, two different things. And what actually happened and where we actually at right now is we're looking at hundreds of thousands of ballots that were cast for a particular candidate with no other voting on the ticket, on the ballot. 30,000, 40,000, 100,000, 90,000. All overnight, in the dead of the night. So, all I'm telling you is what I'm seeing and what I've seen. And I'm just telling you that this shit is on track to be next. They already got motherfuckers in the house. They already got people without their jobs. They already got people right now. Every last one of these motherfuckers that's out of work right now. What are they all doing? Sitting on the edge of their seat, waiting on a check from the government. Government told us to stay home. Government told us we shouldn't be out. Government told us not to go nowhere. Government told we got to stay in so we won't die. And what are they doing? They're sitting at home. And now what are they doing? Waiting on a check. Man, I hope they pass this stimulus package, man. They need to get this stimulus check to us. Well, we already spent $5 trillion. How much money did the average American get? $1,200. $1,200. Matter of fact, let's do the math on that. $1,200. So you say 1,200. Whoops, that's wrong. So you say $1,200 times what? It's 323 Americans, 323 million Americans. Let's just do that. Let's just say every American got it, even though we know they didn't. But let's just say every American got it. So let's say 323 million people, right? 323 million people times $1,200. That is equal to $387,600,000,000. Now, you hear that number? $387,600,000,000. Now, when you think about $1 trillion, $5 trillion, where do you think all the rest of that money went? Take $5 trillion and subtract that. Matter of fact, hey Siri, subtract 387,600,000,000 from 5 trillion.
5 times 10 to the 12th power minus 387,600,000,000 is 4.6124 times 10 to the 12th power.
What? I think that's supposed to. Hey Siri, what's 5 trillion minus 387,600,000,000? I don't know what the fuck. That's $4.6 trillion. Yes. $4,612,400,000,000 left. That we don't know where it's at. Don't know where it's at. All that is supposed, and this is all funds that's supposed to be going for COVID. We don't know where the fuck that shit is at. You got hundreds of millions that went to the counties and all that kind of stuff across the country. All those people got these government entities got that money, but we only got $1,200. That's it. I'm just saying, when you talking about saying, hey, we just giving money away, fine. But when you talking about it ain't even going to the people, and we know it ain't 323 million people, adults in this country that got that money. We know that's not the case. So if you figure what did they say it was, like 46 million or 55 million at one point was all unemployed. When you figure that, you probably say about 150 million people got that money. So it's less than that 387 billion. We know that. But it is what it is. So let's go ahead and let's start looking at these videos real quick and see exactly what the hell I'm talking about. And what I want to do first, I want to go back into time. Yes. Yeah, here we go. So let's check this out real quick.
It's disgusting that almost every day we learn of another person being terrorised, robbed, and attacked in their home.
For Christ's sake, get a bit of vision.
We want justice. Carrying signs and chanting, "We want justice," more than 2,000 angry Australians delivered a personal message to Parliament's doorstep. They're fed up with false promises and sick and tired of living in fear. We want justice.
The bottom line is people want to know that they have a right to defend themselves.
We come from a small country town, and it started happening there, and like, just with having a 6-week-old baby, I like to know that I can protect her, and that we feel safe in our own home.
I would say that the
politicians
in this country, in Australia, have missed the boat entirely, and they've harmed a lot of people who didn't deserve harming with their laws and their approach to it.
A gun buyback that forced law-abiding citizens to surrender their firearms in a nationwide roundup and meltdown of all semi-automatic firearms and pump-action rifles and shotguns.
Now, what you're looking at, this is Australia, and this is back in like the late 80s, early 90s.
640,000 ordinary conventional firearms confiscated and destroyed.
96, okay.
It was an absolute joke and a tragedy. I actually turned in 3 firearms, and it broke my heart.
I mean, it was 40 years of collecting, and I can't say it any other way than that. I felt sick. I had to hand them in, because if I didn't, I was going to jail.
There's no ifs or buts about that. By taking that gun away from me, they've stolen something from me.
A right stolen by their government, promising safety in return for its gun bans. But now citizens know the frightening truth. The cost of lost liberty can be measured in the loss of life.
It's become very, very obvious, even to Blind Freddy, that the expenditure of $500 million has done absolutely nothing to reduce crime.
It certainly didn't do what the government touted it would do, which was to reduce crime.
Now, isn't that one of the biggest things that they say? That's the number one thing that everybody's saying about gun control. If we get these assault rifles off of the streets, we'll stop crime, we'll stop gun violence, we'll save lives. And every last one of these motherfucking countries that done did this shit, they all say the same exact thing. They all say the same exact thing. Crime did not go down. It actually goes up.
It hasn't done that at all. In fact, there's been more.
This has been a lot of bull and hasn't really done.
And for those people that say, oh, but they lying, that wouldn't happen, man. That wouldn't happen here. The numbers prove it. If I'm a bad guy and I know that nobody else has guns, none of the good guys have guns, except the police, I only got one group of people I need to dodge. listen out for the sirens. Other than that, you gotta call the police, motherfucker. If you ain't at home, I can break in your shit. Well, they got alarm systems. You right. Alarm systems don't make the police teleport to your motherfucking residence or your place of business. You still have time to steal. I still have time to beat your ass. I still got time to kidnap you. Home invasion, whatever the case may be. I still have time to hurt you and your loved ones. And the only thing the police can do is react to the fuckery that the criminal has done. So that's why it actually emboldens criminals. That's a fact. Statistical and just, you can clearly see the data.
Done much to help society and with its problems.
Cold, hard facts the anti-gun forces can no longer escape. Armed robberies have skyrocketed, up 69%. Assaults involving guns rose 28%. Gun murders increased 19%. And a new phenomenon, home invasions jumped 21%.
I wonder why that happened. If I have a gun illegally, I'm the criminal. I'm the bad guy. And I know that none of the fucking good Samaritans, none of the citizens have guns. I would be more inclined to rob more. I would be inclined to rob more. I would be inclined to commit assaults more, to do armed robberies, to knock people over the head and take whatever I want to take, to shoot people that I get into arguments with, to shoot people that I don't like, that I have a problem with, I got an argument with. I'm more inclined to shoot and kill people because I know that I have that power. Home invasions, I'm more inclined to rob in a house, break into a house, kick in the door of a house because I know more people have less guns. And this is back in 1996, y'all. And this is in Australia. Australia doesn't even have half of the gun culture that we have here, legal or illegal. So just think of how many people here have guns illegally. Hell, you can even make a gun on a 3D printer nowadays. So imagine what would happen if there was a mandatory buyback and all the good guys gave up their guns. These numbers would literally be doubled at the least.
And increased politicians insist they can't explain because they're still trying to legally define what a home invasion is and what the penalty should be.
Part of the difficulty is that there is no clear definition of home invasion in the law.
Never cease to be amazed at the ingenuity of lawyers.
If the politicians want a pay rise, boom, that's done in 20 minutes. But to define home invasion, what a joke.
I have no trouble.
So essentially what he said is that there was no law that they could have like enforced for home invasion because they really couldn't define what a home invasion was. How can politicians and lawyers not be able to actually define what a home invasion is? And they could get and still ban guns. They can write all the laws they need to write to do a mandatory buyback. They can do all of the law writing and bill creating that they need to do to actually get these guns off the streets and to have people forced to turn in their firearms. They can write all that shit, but they can't define what a home invasion is.
At all in defining what a home invasion is. I think if someone sets their foot inside your door uninvited, they are invading your home and your privacy.
And then you have a 70-year-old lady sum it up in 30 seconds. She figured the shit out in 30 seconds. And yes, Dennis, you should get a lion as a pet to help protect you. And make sure you don't feed him too tough so that he's always hungry.
Victims who have survived home invasions don't need a definition. They've lived through hours of terror. Arthur Field was tied up, his hands and feet taped, his phone lines cut, while two robbers ransacked his house.
Look at that.
Jumped on me and knelt on my chest and grabbed me around the throat because I immediately started calling out help.
I don't know how many men, they start smashing the windows. There was a lot of glass shattering, a lot of noise outside, and I stood in the kitchen, I was trembling.
The Zawadzkis remember thugs running through their home, demanding money, and threatening to kill them. Mr. Zawadsky says if he had a firearm, the suspects never would have gotten away.
Do you will standing, waiting till you get killed? Or you will defend yourself? Tell me true, you will defend yourself.
Scars that never heal.
Exactly.
Citizens left powerless. But it's criminals who have been empowered and emboldened by the new gun laws because the innocent can't fight back.
What's happening today is that the offender, the bad guys, are happy to break into somebody's house. They're not frightened to break into somebody's house while they're at home.
It's the path of least resistance. If I know you ain't gonna do shit and I want to do some shit, I'm gonna do it. In my mind, I'm gonna think, this 70-year-old lady turned in her guns. Absolutely. This 85-year-old man, he turned in his guns. This 60-year-old woman turned in her guns. This 40-year-old mother of three turned in her guns too. Why wouldn't I go kick in their door, waving the 4-4, screaming, all I heard is, Papa, don't hit me no more? Why wouldn't I do that? It makes sense. It's like there are some things, people, that you don't have to have rocket science knowledge to actually figure out. If I know I have it and I know you don't, then I'm going to feel that I have power over you. Unless you're fucking Steven Seagal or somebody, I'm going to do what I want to do to you because I know I have power over you. Whether if it's brute strength, physical strength, strength in numbers, a stick, a bat, whatever the fuck it is, I know it's harder for a 70-year-old person to stop me because I'm only 40. I just know that. It's easy for me to go kick in the door and put my knee on a 70-year-old man's chest and grab him by the throat while my buddies fucking ransack the house and rob him of his TV, microwave, whatever the fuck else he got, money, in the mattress and all of that shit. It's way easier. So why wouldn't I, as a criminal, do that? And hell, if I can stop it from getting to the phone to call the police, it's even better.
Citizens deny the right to protect themselves by a justice system that won't.
Well, my opinion of the legal system here is it's absolutely weak. Weak as water. I mean, it's because they've just got no backbone. That the sentencing for various crimes is just pathetic.
And police.
You hear that? So think about it like this. If I want a group of people, if I want a society to give me power over them, what would I need to do? I would need to convince them that I'm their only hope by taking away any means that they have to defend themselves and to have enough criminals on the streets so that they can actually terrorize those very people and keep them living in fear to where they will do whatever I say. So I'm going to take this small group of people that are my core, diehard, cold-blooded career criminals, and I'm going to give them lighter sentences. You heard about all that shit they've been saying. They letting motherfuckers out because of COVID. They letting motherfuckers out for jail reform and criminal justice reform and all that shit. So I'm handing out lighter sentences, putting these criminals back into society so that they can commit more crimes against law-abiding citizens who cannot defend themselves. Therefore, those law-abiding citizens will then turn around and say, government, please help us, government. Government, please help us. Take away all our rights. Do whatever you got to do. Make living illegal. Just help us. And you know what the government's going to do? They're going to sit back like Xerxes and be like, am I not kind? Am I not a good God? And they're going to say, all right, fine. Y'all pay this much more in taxes and we'll help you motherfuckers more. Well, what you going to do? We'll figure all that out. Just pay this extra tax. It's a security tax. We're going to have everybody turn in their guns, and those people that don't turn in their guns, we're going to send the police after them, and then we're going to crack down on crime. We're going to crack down on these thugs. Just think about it. How would that work? It would work very easily.
Who can't. They're undermanned, and morale has never been lower.
It's very bad at the moment. It's never been worse. Since 1993, we've had a real decrease in over 230 sworn police officers in this state.
These policemen have joined the job, policewomen have joined the job to go out and do it, and they can't even attend at breaks or assaults because there's no vehicle to even get them there. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous.
Gun laws that have back...
If they don't have vehicles, they don't even have vehicles to go to these 911 calls. They don't have the tools to actually go and fight crime. They don't even have enough police officers to help these people because there's been such an influx in crime. That makes it seem as though the police department has been like, I don't know, like defunded or something. Why would they not have enough police cars? Why would the police department not have enough police officers? What did they do? Defund the police? They wouldn't do that, would they? They wouldn't defund. Who would defund the police? Maybe the police just aren't interested in policing anymore. Why, is that what happened? How would they be able to have police officers that don't have police cars? You don't even have enough police officers. Then the police officers that you do have, they don't even have the proper tools, the proper vehicles to even respond to the police calls that are coming in. What? Who would defund the police? Oh, we would. So let's look at this. We're going to defund the police, have all of these fucking citizens that are our law-abiding citizens turn in their guns, because criminals don't turn in guns, in case you didn't know that. In case you didn't get the memo, if you look at the criminal handbook, that's like rule number 4. Don't turn in no guns. So I'm just telling you, when you look at exactly what's happening, when you look at the actual, hey, all of these different pieces are coming together in this puzzle, maybe there's some truth to this. Look at Australia, 1996. This is Australia, 1996. 24 years ago, y'all. 24 years ago, this is where they were at.
Fired. And Australians who have been forced to hide behind bars and deadbolts. Some are even installing extensive security systems because the firearms they still own that haven't been banned have to be locked up, unloaded, and unavailable.
Haven't you heard that shit before? Have y'all not heard that shit before? If you're gonna have a gun, it's gonna have to be in your house, unloaded, and locked up. Then when you're talking about these other people who Joe Biden dumbass even said, oh, we would invest money into technology so that the guns are fingerprint readers. So wait a minute. I'm in a situation where my life is on the line. I'm in a situation where I need to use my gun, and not only with all of the other shit that's going on, my heart's racing, my adrenaline's pumping, I could be suffering from OODA loop or going through OODA loop. I got all of this shit going on. I could be in a struggle, I could be in a fight, but now I also gotta hope that the batteries work in this fingerprint reader to not only give me access to this gun, but to allow me to pull the trigger on this gun. What if my fingerprint reader don't work? on the smart gun I've been forced to get. What happens then? I guess that's just my ass, huh? My family will probably maybe file a lawsuit, get some money for it, or a class action lawsuit, get some money because somebody used some cheap parts and made a faulty fucking fingerprint reader for this gun to work, or maybe the shit just malfunctioned. If I got a motherfucking cheap ass gun, what's that cheap ass gun that they got? The C-Note, what's it called? Who make that shit? I forgot. Somebody will tell me. That damn cheap ass, I got some cheap ass 9mm, but I'm forced to have it made be a smart gun, and the shit don't work properly. Now what? I guess I'm just a dead ass motherfucker, huh?
I mean, get real. If
High
I have
Point,
someone
thank
break in here, I've got to go get them.
You really think High Point is gonna make a high-end fingerprint reader? I think not. You think High Point is gonna be the leader in technology when it comes to gun tech? When it comes to smart guns, High Point is gonna be the leader in that? I think not. Exactly, that's some Hollywood TV bullshit.
Bolt, get the rifle and find the ammunition somewhere else, put it all together and then defend myself. If this other person's got a firearm, it's going to threaten my life. No way, it doesn't bloody add up.
A political fraud. Gun bans that haven't made a difference.
And here's the thing. Meanwhile, while all of this complaining is going on, while this documentary is being made, while all of this this film is being shot to talk about all this bullshit, what they doing? Steady cutting them guns up in half, steady destroying them.
And gun owners now struggling to stop a growing momentum against them.
Struggling to stop, which means it already started.
The people pushing the removal of guns from the Australian society are already saying that's only the first step. Publicly, that's only the first step.
Illa Dre, if you own a High Point, I feel sorry for you, man. I suggest that you sell it to some street thug for half price at least and go put you a real gun on layaway. That is my advice to you, sir.
Now we want the handguns, we want every other firearm.
They're warning to Americans, don't think it can't happen to you.
Ooh, did you hear that?
It can, and it already is.
Unless you, as a firearms owner,
And it already can't happen to you.
Now we want the handguns, the removal of guns from the Australian society are already saying that's only the first step. Publicly, that's only the first step. Now we want the handguns, we want every other firearm.
They're warning to Americans, don't think it can't happen to you. It can, and it already is.
unless you, as a firearms owner, get off your butt now and start to oppose those that want to take them off of you right here and now, I would say that within 5 to 10 years, the restrictions on gun owners in America will be similar to what happens in Australia.
Don't trust your politicians. Get in there, keep on their backs. Be a member of the NRA, be a member of your local gun club.
Be part of the NRA. And
so, people say, well, they're only going to do it for the military-style rifles. They're only going to do it for the assault weapons. They're only going to do it for high-capacity magazines. Yeah, they will. Right now. They absolutely are doing that right now. You know why? Because those are the most powerful ones. Even though those guns are only responsible, AR-15s, rifles, and shit like that, they are only responsible for like less than 1% or 2% of all gun murders. All gun violence is, I want to say it's 1% or less than 1% of gun violence is done with an AR-15 or an AR-15 style weapon. So why would they come and get those first? Because it's the beginning of the end. And then what they'll come back and say is, look, we gotten the AR-15s out of circulation. We banned those. now we need to ban handguns because handguns commit all the violence. So they're going to get you to give this, which most people may not have an AR-15 or an AR-15 style weapon. But they'll come right back after they get all the AR-15s, all of the fucking rifles, they'll come right back and say, yeah, well, what you need to do now is give us all the handguns because, duh, the handguns got the most violence. We commit the most crimes with the handguns. Duh, come on, people. This is common sense gun laws here. It makes sense. Come on. Next thing you know, you're going to have Beto O'Rourke talking about you goddamn right we're coming for your handguns. Just like we came for your goddamn AR-15s. You goddamn right we're going to take your AR-15s. You goddamn right we're going to take your handguns. You goddamn right we're going to take all of your guns because a society that is not armed is way more easily to be controlled. That's it. These are not just politicians. These are people that believe they are the elite. These people they believe that they are the political elite and they should tell you guys what to do because they're the ones that fucking know it all. And they're the ones that's at the top of the food chain. They're the ones that's been voted into office. So therefore, we're the ones that are the leaders of the country. And we should tell you guys what to do. Yeah, we may be taking a fuck ton of money from these other people that are paying us to do this shit. But God damn it, we need to be telling you guys what to do and what's best for you. Because you don't fucking know. That's what they say about you. That's what they talk about when they're in their fucking back board rooms and their fucking government offices that we're paying for, when they're getting on their fucking planes going back and forth to fucking Congress. That's what they're saying. We have to do this because the people that are fucking putting money in our pockets are fucking telling us we need to do this. And I agree with them because they're giving me a fuck ton of money.
Never, ever, ever give up freedoms because that's, in the end, that's all you've got.
If you think you have rights, tomorrow the government can take them away from you.
I think the Americans have to be very, very careful because, you know, their rights will be quickly eroded as ours have, and we don't have a chance in hell of getting those rights back.
You hear that? It's already over for them. It's already over for them. That's exactly what that is. That's exactly what they're saying. Now, some people may say, yeah, I get it, man, but that's like a different area. It's a different place. You know, that just doesn't happen, you know, like that. It ain't going to just happen like that. You know, it don't just happen like that. That's just one unique difference. That's just one place where it happened. But there's more. It's actually happened somewhere else.
Well, no country in the Western Hemisphere has failed more completely in more ways than Venezuela, sadly. It has a lot going for it. It had a huge middle class. It has, of course, the world's largest proven oil reserves. Today, it can't even feed itself. There's no toilet paper some days in Caracas. They're eating zoo animals. What happened? Well, you know what happened. They implemented socialism, and there were obvious and predictable and disastrous consequences. But that's not the whole story of what happened there. 6 years ago, the government of Venezuela passed a gun ban specifically designed to disarm the public. It, of course, did not make people safer. Venezuela is one of the highest murder rates in the world. That wasn't the point of it. The point was to make the people powerless, and it definitely did that. As one terrified Venezuelan put it, quote, people never would have believed they needed to defend themselves against the government. But, of course, they did. In the past 2 years, almost 200 protesters, pro-democracy protesters, have been murdered by the security forces of dictator Nicolas Maduro. The government...
Did you hear that? 200 people killed by their own fucking government for doing what? Protesting. Let's see that again.
It still has guns, of course. They did. In the past 2 years, almost 200 protesters, pro-democracy protesters, have been murdered by the security forces of dictator Nicolas Maduro. The government still has guns, of course. Authoritarians aren't stupid. They never give up their guns. That's rule one. Well, that principle applies just as well to the United States as it does to failing socialist states. In New Jersey, ordinary citizens can go to prison for possessing gun magazines that hold too many rounds. But lawmakers there just changed the law to ensure it doesn't apply to police. They know larger magazines can be helpful for defense. That's why their bodyguards still have them. Regular citizens, though, have to fend for themselves. Bernie Carrick is a former NYPD commissioner, and he joins us tonight. Bernie, thanks very much for coming on. So there are two parts to the story. The first part is the state of New Jersey, for a time, made it a crime for its own officers off-duty, included off-duty, to have magazines that I think hold more than 10 rounds. What was the thinking behind that?
Well, honestly, Tucker, it was worse than that. Basically, they did it for the entire state of New Jersey. 10-round capacity or less only. Anything above that is a crime.
Yes.
They did it for the whole state. When they did that, and basically, it was a cunning way to attack the legal gun owners, because you have 8 million handguns in New Jersey. You have probably another 2 million assault weapons, not assault weapons, but semi-automatic weapons, rifles. They have capacities of more than 10 rounds.
And while y'all watching, click that like button, click that subscribe button.
Which means you have to destroy the magazines, or you have to alter them, and most of them can't be altered. So you make those guns useless. When they did this, they also added off-duty police officers, which is completely bizarre, and it's another assault on the Second Amendment. But
so that's what they're. So listen to what they're saying. So no, they may not just pop up one day and say, "Hey, all these guns are illegal," but they start with the magazines. They start with certain types of weapons are banned. Next thing you know, and like all of this equipment, what do you do with that? So I got a fucking Glock 17 with fucking 17 rounds in it, plus one in the chamber. I got a 17 round mag. What do I do with that magazine? I got to destroy it and get rid of it and go buy a fucking 10 round magazine now. What do I do with that? So what do I do with I got to now say, fuck it, I can't carry my Glock 17, now I got to carry my fucking revolver. And here's the thing too, and this is one of the things I talk about with revolvers. Because people always say, well, revolvers are better guns anyway. You'll have these old school people that'll say it. Revolvers are better guns anyway. They're reliable, they don't jam, they always work, they're always gonna fire. Here's the thing about revolvers. Number one, nothing is absolute. So all revolvers aren't, oh, they fire and work every single time. That's not true. Parts can get worn, parts can get broken, parts can get bent, and that fucking revolver can possibly not fire. It's just highly reliable, yes. But here's the thing too. I don't want to trust my life to 6 shots. For those of you that know, when I talk about guns, when I talk about being in a gunfight, one of the worst things that you want to do, I don't know if anybody's ever heard me say this on the show right now, but I'm saying it. You're in a gunfight. If you're in a situation where you are actively using your gun, the last thing that you want to do is to have to reload. The last thing you want to do in a gunfight is have to reload. If you got to reload, like my brother always says, if you got to reload in a gunfight, motherfucker, you in trouble. Big trouble. Just think about that. If you're in a situation where you got to reload, you are in fucking trouble. Could you possibly be in that situation? Yes. Especially and even more so with a fucking 6-round gun. Well, why would you say that? Most gun, here's what they gonna say that to combat that. Most gun battles are usually over within 2 to 4 rounds. Bullshit. Bullshit. What if I'm in a situation where I'm actually in a shootout with multiple people? What if 2 fuckers try to kick in my door, waving their 4-4s, screaming, all they screaming is, "Papa, don't hit me no more"? What if 2 dudes come in there? Am I only gonna pick the one that I'm gonna shoot? What if I actually throw a round? What if I actually fire and don't hit shit? Which is very possible. There are even some gunfights where the first round is actually fired into the ground. because you were so anxious in getting the gun out and pulling that trigger because you had to do it. The first one landed in the ground. It's in the dirt. It's in a wall. It didn't get even close to being on target. So now that 6-round revolver has just turned to 5. Now I got 5 rounds between 2 niggas. I hopefully am going to put 2 in each one. But what if I miss? Now I'm down to 4. I put 2 in one. Now I'm down to 2, possibly 3. Let's say I'm just a fucking sharpshooter. I'm a fucking crack shot. But now I've gotten these 2 motherfuckers that I've shot. But let's say, for instance, the wounds weren't fatal. So now what? They could still be coming. They could still be, because if they're in a gunfight, they're trying to survive. So just as much as I'm trying to take them out, they're trying to take me out. Not to the ball game and not to the crowd. They don't want to buy me some peanuts or Cracker Jacks. They don't care if I ever get back. Because they are not rooting for the home team. But if they fucking win, it'll be a shame. So it's 1, 2, 3 strikes you're out of that old fucking revolver game. Yes, I just used take me out to the ball game for that. But all I'm telling you is this. Why would you even want to put yourself in a situation to where you're either left with 1 round in your gun or it's 0? Because what if the 2 guys that came and kicked in the door waving their 4.4s, what if they had a buddy that was actually the driver outside? What if he hears the gunshots and now he decides to come in and help his buddies? So now my 2 assailant home invasion has now just turned into 3. And I have 0 rounds, or maybe 1 round left in my gun. Shit get real quick, don't it? So when you're talking about being in that type of situation, do you actually think that having 1 round or trying to reload, dumping out 6, hopefully you got a speed loader, because if you don't have a speed loader, now you really fucked. So now I'm either putting in a speed loader, twisting the speed loader, pulling the speed loader out, dropping that, hitting that motherfucking wheel back in, and now I'm back. Or I'm old school, dumping the 6, putting in 1, putting in 2, putting in 3, putting in 4. Hold on 1 second, sir. I know you're here to defend your friends and to save your friends. And because you see your friends are shot and they could possibly be dying, now you want to shoot me. Time out while I reload. Putting in 4, putting in 5, putting in 6, slap, hammer back now. George. Now I'm back in the fight after doing all that shit. You really think a fucking shooter is gonna wait for that? Cause I call times? Time out? No. That's my ass. My goose is cooked. Stick a fork in me. I'm done. I'm turducken now. All because some elite fucking rich asshole who lives in a gated community or who has a private security detail or is guarded by the fucking Secret Service said I should only have a revolver or I can only have 10 rounds. Why would it be okay for someone else to decide not only with what you defend yourself with, but how you defend yourself for your life, your loved one's life, your wife, your kids, your brother, your mother, your sister, your father, your cousin, your uncle, an old lady, an innocent neighbor? How in the fuck does a politician decide or determine how you do that? There is not a single politician on this planet that is actually responsible for your safety and your life. You are the only person that is responsible for your life and your safety. So how in the fuck does somebody else tell you how you get to defend yourself? It makes no sense whatsoever.
More importantly, you have off-duty cops that many of them carry their on-duty weapon off-duty.
Of course.
If it's a 9mm, it has 12 rounds in a magazine, or 13 or 14, it now becomes illegal. So God forbid that cop off-duty gets involved in a shooting and he's held criminally liable. He could be held civilly liable. It's a major, major problem.
What cop would fucking change magazines every time they get off work? Oh, I gotta go from this 17 round to this 10. Hold on, guys, I just got off. Let me swap mags. Who in the fuck would do that? And then if I forget to do it, I gotta call timeout again? Hold on, criminal. Let me check to make sure I have the proper magazine in my gun because I'm off duty. Yes, I do. Okay.
Well, so I want to go back to something you just said a second ago because it gets to the heart of what makes me nervous about this whole conversation and why I'm starting to suspect the other side is arguing in bad faith. If you're worried about gun violence, and I think everybody is, including me for sure, you go after the small number of people who are committing it, who are criminals and crazy people. You wouldn't intentionally target legal gun owners who are likely to be law-abiding and, in fact, statistically are law-abiding. So why go after them? What's that about?
That's about taking the guns. That's about taking guns. That's the only thing I can think of. You know, these are legal, law-abiding citizens that have been vetted, that have been background checked, that have all the stuff they need to purchase the weapons. Well, the governor decided we're going to take every magazine in excess of 10 rounds. And basically what that does, that's a lot of magazines.
But why would you, so your goal, if that's your plan, is to disarm legal gun owners, to take the resources from going after, from stop and frisk, trying to find people who shouldn't have guns who possess them, criminals, and go to legal gun owners, it's not really about reducing the crime rate, is it?
No, absolutely not, because, listen, the bad guys don't care about your gun law. They don't give a damn about that gun law, and they're going to have magazines that have double the capacity. It doesn't make any difference.
And what do we see when we see these motherfucking young-ass thug niggas on Facebook, on Instagram? What do we see with them? What do we see them having? They have bigger magazines than we do right now. All these young niggas that listening to this drill music, shout out to O-Block. All these niggas. What do you see in all these videos? What do you see on Instagram and on Facebook Live? What do these niggas have? They all have 33 round magazines. Do you really think that these criminals are going to turn those in? The gangbangers and the thug niggas are going to turn in their 33 round magazines? They not going to even turn in their 33s and go down to 17 since we done went from 17s down to 10s. Just think about that. All I'm doing is pointing out the facts, y'all. When you see these criminals right now today with their guns, in their photos, on their lives, they all have 33 rounds, 40 rounds, 60 round magazines in their handguns. Handgun, the magazines are bigger than the guns. I bullshit you not. They got a fucking gun, and the gun is here, magazine down here. They got the gun in their hand, the magazine is sticking out this far. Blickle. That's what they're doing. This the gun, this the magazine. I'm telling you, that's just what it is.
To them, it's not going to have any impact on reducing crime. So,
Jason Schaffner says it's really about taking guns out of black people's hands. Jason, don't be naive. Everything ain't about black and white. This is about haves and have-nots. See, here's the thing, Jason. If I got money and you don't, It don't matter what color you are. But I can tell you one thing. If you starving and you got a gun, where you gonna go get your food from? Where you gonna get money from? The people that have it. Who are the people that have it? The people who have money. That's what this is. When the shit does go left, when shit does get fucked up for everybody in all of the everyday working class, the people that are on unemployment, and the unemployment that ran out because the government and its socialist fucking mentality have fucking bankrupt the economy, and there is no more money being made. So the only people that have money are the super rich elite, or the people that have privilege. Those are the only ones that have anything. So it don't matter if you black or white. It ain't that many black folks with guns, no way. We coming late to the party like a motherfucker. They're not trying to keep the guns out of black folks' hands. They're trying to keep the guns out of the masses' hands. They want everybody's guns, not just niggas. They could get niggas guns in about 2 weekends. Not 2 weeks, couple of weekends. That's what this is. This ain't a black against white thing. This is a us against them. This is a have against the have-nots. That's what this is.
I don't know what the purpose was, but I do know right now, even as of now, and this broke on Thursday or Friday, when the Bergen County prosecutor put out a memo to the cops saying, be careful because of this rule, of this law. Even today, as we speak, they've revised, there's a revision to the law, but the governor hasn't signed it. So you still have cops in the state of New Jersey right now off duty. If they're carrying a magazine in excess of 10 rounds, they are violating New Jersey state law.
It's the bureaucracy part of it. So yeah, like Kev 504 was saying earlier, they can't do that. Yeah, they can, but they can't, but they can. Because what'll happen is they'll tell you, oh, they can't do that, but then the legislation that you have to go through to get something overturned, or the legal process that you have to go through to get something fought, to fight back, or to get something revised, or whatever the case may be, could take months, could take years. Just saying. Shout out to Illa Dre for hitting your boy up with a buck. He says for the high point joke. Hey, thank you. But that's what it is. That's exactly what this shit is. It's the overlay for the underlay. And they know, well, shit, once we get this shit cracking, they ain't gonna really be able to do shit no way. By the time they get some shit done, it's gonna be too fucking late anyway. So shit, why not? Check this out. Now, what we just went was 1996. Came up around, the 2000s. Now, this is Canada as of recent, like fucking this year, 6 months ago, year ago. 6 months, it's been 6 months. Damn, wrong one. Here we go. So you saw what happened with Venezuela. Now, let's see what happened with Canada.
We will be moving forward on a ban on assault weapons because we know that weapons designed to kill the largest number of people in the shortest amount of time have no place in our communities.
So gun control is moving to the top of the agenda when Parliament resumes tomorrow. The government has promised to ban assault rifles, crack down on gun violence, something that's been on the rise in some of Canada's biggest cities. But Would a gun ban in cities like Toronto and Winnipeg really help curb violence? Is it really getting to the nub of the problem? And in a minority parliament, can the Liberals get enough support from opposition benches to make it happen? Let's bring MPs to find out. Joel Lightbound is the Public Safety Parliamentary Secretary. Michelle Rempel-Garner is a Conservative MP for Alberta. And Peter Julian is the NDP House
Jason
Leader
said,
and
who
MP
they
in
gonna
British
start
Columbia.
with
Thanks
if
for
that
joining us
happens?
all, Mr.
What
Lightbound. I
race?
got to
I'll
start with
wait.
you.
Jason, they're going to start with the biggest threat, which would not be us. Most of us that own guns, that have guns, are criminals. The other half are your law-abiding citizens. There's a bigger group of people that have guns, and it's going to be white folks. That's why all of that shit, when you hear niggas talking about, man, they trying to get a race war going. We don't want no race war because we ain't got enough. We don't have enough guns, and we damn sure don't have enough ammo. I know people right now that are white people that got thousands of rounds, tens of thousands of rounds, not to even count their guns. See, they've been way ahead of the game. They've been waiting. They've been ready for this shit 40, 50 years in the making. Just saying. So if it does happen, if they say we're going to take the guns, it's not a black or white thing. It's a people thing. We're going after the people that have. That's why they're picking the AR-15s first. Do you realize that if there was an actual us against the government type of war, we would lose with a bunch of fucking handguns? What AR-15s provide is long distance, efficient killing. Being able to shoot a motherfucker 300 yards away matters in a fucking war. They ain't trying to come after us and our fucking high points. Yes, Illadre, I just gave another shout to you. They're not coming after a bunch of niggas with high points. They're not coming after a bunch of niggas with a bunch of Smith & Wesson handguns. They're not doing that. That's why they're coming after AR-15s first. Matter of fact, think about it like this, just to debunk the whole race thing. Who has more AR-15s? Black folks or white folks? I'll wait. Who got more AR-15s? Black people or white people? Who has more rifles? Blacks or whites? Just saying. Tell me the truth. I mean, let's just look at this truthfully. Let's look at the facts. Look at the evidence. Look at what we have in front of us to be true. Who got more guns? Who got more rifles? AR-15 styled rifles. Shotguns. White people do. So if this was a black thing, they'll be coming after all handguns in the inner city. That's why I'm trying to tell you, dude. This ain't no us against them. This is a have and a have-nots. This ain't black folks against white folks. This ain't that. This ain't the government cracking down on niggas. This is the government realizing we keep taking these motherfuckers' rights and making these motherfuckers do shit like having a digital certificate for vaccination so you can travel in the fucking world. And a bunch of these motherfuckers ain't gonna be cool with this shit. You know who a bunch of motherfuckers is gonna be? White folks. 70+% of the population is white. So if we're trying to get somebody to go along with digital certificates, we're trying to get a bunch of fucking people in this country to go along with fucking mandatory vaccinations, mandatory masks, then that means we're talking about what? A bunch of white folks complying with what the fuck we want them to do. And it's hard to do that when a bunch of white folks got fucking rifles. It's hard to do that when that bunch of white folks got AR-15s. So what do we need to do, guys? We need to get those out of their hands first. That's why they're coming after them.
The Prime Minister said there's going to be a priority in the next couple of weeks, he said. There's going to be introduced.
Don't believe me? Just watch. This is Canada.
Introducing legislation to ban assault rifles. What's an assault rifle? What exactly are you going to ban?
Well, the Minister Blair has been clear, and it was a campaign commitment that we want to ban military-style assault rifles, so that have large capacity magazines. So essentially, weapons that were designed for military uses.
But
that
give
are
me an example of that, because a lot of sporting rifles, like, it doesn't mean, is that semi-automatic?
Well, one that's been cited a lot, but I'm not going to go into details on the list. We're working with the RCMP on that, but the AR-15 is a good example of one assault rifle that was designed for its efficiency to kill people, and I think we campaigned on it. We've heard loud and clear from Canadians.
I'm just trying to get, just before I get the response, you know, automatic weapons are already prohibited, right? Then there's restricted weapon categories.
Right.
What other weapons exactly will be prohibited?
So these semi-automatic that are designed for their efficiency in military situations. So the AR-15 is one example, but as I said, we're working on the RCMP on the list, but those are weapons that were designed for use in the military that have no place in Canadian society. That's something we've heard loud and clear from Canadians.
What do you make of that? I mean,
and that's another lie that they tell. They say that shit here. There are gun people that want these laws. There are pro-2A people that are wanting these laws. Where the fuck are they? You're just saying that shit because you don't have any evidence of people saying that. There's no gun guy saying, yeah, we want common sense gun laws. Yeah, we want smaller capacity magazines. They're just saying it. Just like he's saying it. This is what the people want. How do we know? Where are the people that are saying this? You understand what I'm telling you? This is the same shit that they're going to pull here. I'm telling you. They're already doing it there. 2 years. These motherfuckers got 2 years to turn them all in. Just like they did where? In good old Australia. Just like they did where? In good old Venezuela. Just like they're doing now in good old Canada.
Bill Blair has said he doesn't want to demonize legal gun owners and he doesn't want to demonize sport shooters. Can they cut the line there?
Well, first of all, we have to stop firearms violence in Canada. It's very important. The issue with this approach is that it doesn't address the problem, which is the vast majority, I believe it's well over 90% of firearms that are used in violent crime are either illegally obtained or they're primarily smuggled in from the United States. So the government is proposing confiscating just so many different firearms from people that are frankly already banned in Canada. It's not the same laws as the U.S. I think that in order to receive my restricted license, to be honest with you, I think the vetting was actually more strict than getting my cabinet clearance.
Peter Julian, this has been something that's divided the NDP. A lot of your...
She said it was harder for her just to get the license. It was harder for her to get her gun license than it was for her to get vetted to be a part of cabinet in her own country.
Rural MPs, they don't want any kind of restrictions on guns. What will the NDP do? Will they support Liberals on gun control?
Well, we have to see the legislation, of course, Evan. I mean, what the NDP does is we look through the legislation as it's presented. We have those discussions, and then we move forward from there. But I do think there is no doubt, if you ask Canadians across the country, particularly in places like Toronto, they are increasingly concerned about gun violence. And the reality is, what we've seen both under Conservative governments, but also under Liberal governments, is a failure to make the kinds of investments so that the existing laws can be enforced. And we do have illegal weapons coming across from the United States. We have...
And here's the thing. How in the fuck do you just say we're going to take away everybody's guns to cure gun violence when there's clear data that shows that doesn't work? Because the laws that you're making, newsflash, criminals don't follow laws. So why would you make a law for criminals? I mean, why would you make a law to stop crime when criminals don't follow laws? Makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. And just like Wolf Bear said, he said, I felt like a fool when I went to a rifle course with 500 rounds. Them white people had 1,000 plus in cans. And you probably had just bought them 500 rounds that you took with you. You probably just bought them just because you was going to shoot that rifle course. I know. I've been there, done that. Just now getting into this shit. And I'm 46. These motherfuckers been having thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds for the past 30, 40 years, since they was in their 20s. It's nothing for them to take a can with 1,000 rounds in it to the range for a fucking weekend. Take 1,000 rounds to the motherfucking course that they go on, the rifles course that they go to every year, to go back to it and say, yeah, I'm gonna shoot 1,000 this weekend. Nothing at all. The fact that people were talking about, yeah, man, you want a gun, when you're buying a rifle, you want to buy a rifle where you can put, 10,000 rounds through it. I was like, fuck, I never even thought of that. When you're talking about the difference between those $500 AR-15s and them $1,500 AR-15s, that's what you're talking about. You put 10,000 rounds through a motherfucking $500 AR-15, by the time them 10,000 rounds are done going through that rifle, oh, you gonna need to replace something. Something's gonna get worn the fuck out. Whether you have shit, people, I mean, I didn't even know that things can happen like fucking barrels and shit like that can begin to warp if they're not high quality. I didn't even know that shit till years, some years back when I learned that just by getting into the science of this shit and getting into the art of this shit. I was like, damn, barrels can go bad? Yes, motherfucker. Just saying, man. That shit matters.
An illegal market here in Canada where legal guns are purchased and then sold on the illegal market. Police do not have the resources that they really need in order to enforce those laws. And I think all Canadians would share the goal of making sure that our communities are safe and that we start to reduce the levels of gun violence that have reached.
Did you hear that? The police don't have the resources. So I guess Canada has had some defunding of their police departments too, huh? Doesn't that sound familiar? Who defunded their police years ago before they actually took guns from there? Oh, that was Venezuela. Oh, no, that wasn't Venezuela. Oh, that was Australia back in '96. Huh. Wow. So Australia did the same thing, and now Canada's talking about the same thing. We don't have enough resources to actually solve the crimes for the uptick in crime that we could have, not let alone the crime that we have now. We don't have enough police resources to actually address those issues. So you taking away all these guns, when crime does uptick, there won't be any police officers that can actually assist in actually addressing it. The resources will be gone. They're gone now.
Disturbing levels in this.
Okay, but I want to. Can you just? Yeah, let me just get Mr. Light. Can you just respond? Well, Michelle Rampal's raised this point that it's a solution for the wrong problem. The problem is illegal guns coming in, not legal gun owners. How will this proposed legislation or gun control bans address that concern?
I think we have to look at this from a holistic perspective. When Madame Rampal says that we're demonizing law-abiding gun owners, that is so completely far.
We have to look at how you protect your life from a holistic point of view by saying, should nobody be able to do it? Trust us. We got you. Yeah, right.
From the truth. I don't think you need a military-style assault rifle to go hunting. That's what we're targeting. Military.
I don't need a military-style rifle to go hunting, but I sure do need it when 3 niggas kick in my door. I do need it when a motherfucker breaking into my goddamn house. I do need it then. Y'all saw the story I did on the United Guns of America channel about the pregnant woman who actually used her husband's AR-15 to fend off 3 motherfuckers. She killed 2, I think, and wounded 1 because they were literally beating her husband to death, and they had hit her. They had physically assaulted her daughter in his own backyard.
Style assault rifles, and on
you're
the other
banning?
hand, on the
Tell
other
me what
for
calibers
law
are you
enforcement, so we've given 86
What?
million to CBSA to better protect our borders and prevent gun smuggling across the.
You see how he totally avoided that question? She said, "Tell me what calibers. What calibers are you talking about? 22 long rifle, 308, 223, 5.56, 7.62. What are you talking about? Which calibers are you talking about? We just getting rid of all them motherfuckers. We're going to say they all military style."
Border. Meanwhile, the Conservatives cut 900 million in the RCMP and CBSA. We've invested 250 million in
I just want
provinces.
an answer.
So I think we have we need a multifaceted approach.
I get that, but just just before, can I get an answer to that question? If gun violence in cities is caused by illegal guns, as many contend, although there's a debate on that, how will this ban stop the influx of illegal things, like illegal handguns, to stop the gun crimes?
Well, it's part of the solution to ban military-style assault rifle. It's not the only answer to that problem. That's why we're investing in CBSA.
Why don't you?
Exactly. And this is what I'm gonna show you next. The video I got coming up next after this, or I think it's one more after this, or maybe next. I'm gonna show you how fucking politicians are just literally their job, the whole style of a politician. And I'm gonna tell you who's like amazing at doing this. And I just peeped it by doing this show, getting the research together for this show. Barack Obama is amazing at doing just what he's doing. Talking about everything else but answering the question that's being asked directly. Politicians, that is the art of any fucking good politician. They just don't answer a question with a direct answer. They won't do it. And I don't understand why people have gotten so accustomed to politicians or good politicians talking to them like they're fucking stupid and really just smoozing them and just totally avoiding answering any question directly until they know I got complete power over you. You can't do shit about it. Then I'll say something like, "Hell yeah, I'm going to take your gun." Listen to this. 2 motherfuckers are asking this one dude the same question and he won't answer it.
For the smuggling, that's why we want to put in stricter.
Right, Mr. Chahua says holistic is natural ways. Nature is not fair naturally. Thank you. That's why animals develop claws and fangs and plants develop thorns and poison. Humans made guns. Exactly. A bear is stronger than a human. But a bear ain't gonna do shit against a 308. Tell you that. Me and my bare hands up against a bear, I'm gonna lose. Ask the dude who was living with the bears for 3 months. Until they got tired of his ass.
Penalties for illegal smuggling. That's why we're moving forward, investing, giving provinces and to law enforcement $250 million so that they can fight gang violence across Canada and cities across Canada.
You're about to spend $1 billion+ on confiscation. Why don't you just put that in the RCMP? Look, as a law-abiding firearms owner myself, if I was the problem and my community was the problem, we would be the first ones to say more regulation because we're not the United States. But can you imagine how ridiculous it sounds for you not to be able to answer Evan's question and then say that you're going to spend billions of dollars on confiscation when there's already a ban?
Ooh-wee, did you hear that? She said, what you're doing with a buyback, because I'm telling you, a buyback is going to be billions. Here in the fucking United States, it would be trillions. Trillions of dollars. But the thing is, what she's saying is that you can't even answer a simple question and you're already spending billions of dollars. That makes no fucking sense whatsoever.
But how do the Conservatives answer the question that a lot of domestic abuse, suicides caused by people who are legal gun owners, and then in fact that it's not all illegal firearms that are causing death. Cities have rising rates of handgun use.
Sure.
What is wrong with some kind of gun control in a lot of places in urban centers where people seem to want it? What's the conservative response to that?
We already have very strict gun control, and very strict, some of the most strict in the world. I mean, you can't just go and buy a handgun in Canada. The process for license.
Why would you make stricter gun laws for law-abiding citizens? Just answer that. Anybody that you talk to, let me just give you a talking point. Anybody that you talk to that is, oh, we need better gun control, have them answer that question. It's not like we don't have any gun laws. So tell me this, if gun violence is a crime, and I want to stop the crime of gun violence, why would I create more laws for people who don't obey laws? Because criminals don't obey laws. Just in case you didn't know, you didn't get the memo. Criminals don't obey laws. So why would I create more laws for law-abiding citizens, or just flat out take all of the guns from law-abiding citizens when they're not the ones committing the majority of the crimes? The people that are committing the greater majority of the crimes are law-abiding citizens. Now, yes, there are some accidental discharges that occur. Yes, you'll have a kid that may shoot himself every now and then. It pales in comparison to the criminals that are actually killing people, that are actually robbing people, that are actually home invading people, that are actually robbing people at gunpoint, that are physically assaulting people. Why would I make more gun laws or confiscate guns from those people who will now not have a way to defend themselves or their loved ones, whose lives I am not responsible for legally? Why would I do that? And you let me know when you get a real answer from it, or a straight answer.
Licensing is usually about a year. You are subject to daily vetting. You have to store your firearms in very strict conditions.
So you just want status quo?
Well, here's the thing. Like you talked about suicide, same thing. Very, very huge problem. But when you talk about suicide with firearm, we have, tip lines. We have.
Y'all do know that, like, half of the gun violence or gun deaths are suicide. Y'all do know that, right? So when you're talking about the suicides, that's mental health. So why wouldn't he say we're putting $250 million, we're putting $1 billion into establishing mental health facilities and mental health resources for our people, period? Because when you talk about gun violence, when you talk about a lot of the issues that we're having in just our country alone and worldwide, why wouldn't there be more? If you're caring about the citizens, if you care about the people, if you're really trying to save lives, why would you not put hundreds of millions of dollars back into mental health resources, back into mental health facilities, opening back up mental health facilities, crazy houses, whatever you want to call it? Why would you not put money into that if your primary concern is making our neighborhoods and our communities safer for people from a holistic point of view? Throw that bullshit word out there. Holistically, you would think that mental health would be one of the cornerstones to you actually saving lives. Why wouldn't you put those resources towards shoring those issues up, shoring up those different areas, as opposed to saying, no, we're going to take everybody's guns and leave y'all with the crazy motherfuckers and the thugs on the streets?
All sorts of checks on the licensing process around mental health. There are so many things that we already have in place that the issue is firearms that are obtained illegally. That's the problem. So any of the major incidents that have happened, when you look at it, these aren't licensed firearms owners and their guns were illegally sourced. So why would we spend $1 billion on this?
Mr. Julian.
Well, we take no lessons from the Conservatives. They gutted crime prevention programs when they were in power. And the Liberals like to talk about the investments they're making. But the reality is, when you look at the Liberal...
Truth be told, they kind of did the same thing here. They gutted our fucking mental health. Closed all the crazy houses. Took away all the mental health resources. They put those motherfucking people, those veterans, those crazy uncles and aunties of ours, they literally put them on the streets. Literally. Terrible.
Investments across the country. And in a place like Surrey, BC, it basically means one additional police officer can be hired. And when we look at the extent of the growing levels of gun crime, we have to make sure that the investments are made, that we are removing dangerous weapons from the streets. There's no doubt about that. And that we have a thoughtful approach.
All right, I got to leave it there. Before we go, though, real quick, a lot of people, since Pierre Poilievre, Ron Ambrose, and Jean Charest are not running, people are saying Michelle Rempel Garner is going to run. Are you considering a leadership race?
I am concerned about the fact that Western alienation is not being addressed in Parliament by the Government of Canada. And the base of my party is in Western Canada. They voted for us to give them a voice. I will be making sure one way or the other that that is addressed in my tenure in this Parliament. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Okay. No,
just way to stand up and do some shit. But my thing is this, it's like when we talk about all of those things that we want for our communities, and this is Democrat, if you vote Democrat or Republican, whichever one it should be, why aren't we holding them to task with that? Why aren't we saying we want mental health facilities reestablished? We want better mental health resources put into our communities, into our neighborhoods. Why do we need to defund the police for that? If we can find hundreds of millions of dollars for fucking art programs, if we can find hundreds of millions of dollars for all of these other fucking programs that we have, how come we need to defund the police to help crazy people, to help mentally challenged people, mentally ill people? Why do we need to do that? We don't. If we can give hundreds of millions of dollars to a fucking museum, a place that got a bunch of fucking artifacts in it, a bunch of old shit, essentially, why can't we defund some of that to help people who are actually on the street, who are not even mentally capable of actually living a life where they can actually hold a job? Why isn't that on our agenda? Where's the mental health lives matter t-shirt at? Where's the Mental Lives Matter mural painted out on the street in Washington, D.C., painted in front of Trump Tower? Where's that shit at? Veterans Lives Matter. Where's that shit? Let me stop before I go too far, I guess. Yeah, we're going to do this one, then we're going to do this other one. Yeah, check this shit out.
We are now learning President-elect Joe Biden's incoming deputy chief of staff pushed for...
That's the wrong one. I done did the wrong one. Hold up. Wait. There we go. Here we go. This is the one I need right here. That's the last one. So this is 2016 town hall meeting with Barack Obama.
So good guys, why then do you and Hillary want to control and restrict? So good guys, why then do you and Hillary want to control and restrict and limit gun manufacturers, gun owners, and the responsible use of guns and ammunition to the rest of us, the good guys, instead of holding the bad guys accountable for their actions? And Mr. President, if I may, I'd like to use Chicago, your hometown, a city that has some of the strictest gun laws in the nation, a city that for decades and still is under Democratic control, a city that has an outrageous and even embarrassing murder rate as my first example. Why can't we round up these thugs, these drug dealers and gang members, and hold them accountable for their actions, or allow the good people in Chicago access to firearms to protect themselves?
Good. Now, you heard exactly what he just said. And he put them on blast, talking about, like I've always said, this your hometown, motherfucker. And he just asked plain and simple. You get all these gun laws here in Chicago. Chicago is fucking bursting at the seams with fucking murder. How come you won't have it available to where law-abiding citizens can protect themselves? Why are you going after gun manufacturers and making more gun laws? Listen to what Obama say. This is the whole thing I was talking about with the politicians, how they just will not answer a question. Watch this motherfucking answer.
All right. Well, let me. It's a multi-part question, so let me just say a couple things. First of all, the notion that I or Hillary or Democrats or whoever you want to choose are hell-bent on taking away folks' guns is just not true.
Yes, JC.
I don't care how many times the NRA says it. I'm about to leave office. There have been more guns sold since I've been president than just about any time in U.S. history. There are enough guns for every man, woman, and child in this country.
That's not true anymore, but at that time it was true. However, this motherfucker did put a hold on fucking ammo, and he held up ammo sales and ammo being distributed in the country. He did do that.
And at no point have I ever...
So essentially, motherfuckers had guns but no ammo.
...ever proposed confiscating guns from responsible gun owners. So it's just not true. What I have said is precisely what you suggested, which is, why don't we treat this like every other thing that we use? We used to have really bad auto fatality rates. The auto fatality rate has actually dropped precipitously, drastically, since I was a kid. Why is that? We decided we had seatbelt laws. We decided to have manufacturers put airbags in place. We decided to crack down on drunk driving and texting. We decided to redesign roads so that they were less likely to have a car bank. We studied what is causing these fatalities using science and data and evidence, and then we slowly treated it like the public health problem it was, and it got reduced. We are not allowed to do any of that when it comes to guns, because people, if you propose anything, it is suggested that we're trying to wipe away gun rights and impose tyranny and martial law.
And here's why it should be that way. Newsflash. Driving a car, motorcycle, or any type of motor vehicle, it is a privilege. Having a gun in the United States of America is not a privilege. It is a fucking right. That's why. Just in case motherfuckers didn't know that. Gun rights. Automobile privilege. You have a privilege. That's why if you drive a car and you're drunk, you can get your license revoked because you don't have a right to drive. You have a right to travel, but you do not have a right to drive. You are not guaranteed the right to drive in the United States of America. It is a privilege. However, owning a gun, that is a right. Carrying a gun, it is a right. There is no regulation for gun ownership. There shouldn't be. You know why? Because just like they don't regulate my fucking freedom, I get it because I'm born here. You don't regulate my speech, well now motherfuckers do. Because I should be able to say what the fuck I want because I was born here. Do you understand that? Nobody sits back and decides if I'm gonna be a free man when I'm born. Nobody decides if I'm gonna be free this year. Nobody should be able to decide if I should, I wonder if we should let them have the right to vote. No, I get that because I'm born here. That's it. Don't matter who the fuck I vote for, I have the right to vote. Voting is not a privilege, It is a right. That's a difference. That's what these motherfuckers don't understand. And then my thing again here with the car comparison, since he opened the door, let me go ahead and walk through it. You don't get to determine how many cars I own. You don't get to determine how many vehicles I get to have. If I get to have one bike and one car, if I get to have one motorcycle or two cars or two motorcycles and three cars, you don't get to determine that. I could have literally hundreds of fucking cars. And just because it is a privilege, I have to register those vehicles. Yes, I do. But I own them nonetheless. They are mine nonetheless. I have to pay to have them because it's a privilege. It's not a right. So just think about that. This is not, people try to compare this. Well, that's how we made cars safer. Yeah, but it's still more car accidents kill people than guns every year. More people die from vehicle accidents, motorcycle accidents, than they do from guns every year. Drive with all of the regulations, all of the safety precautions, we did the roads and we changed the roads to where cars wouldn't bank. We also added seat belts. We made seat belts a mandatory law to where that's what you had to do. Then we also made it to where airbags became regulation. You had to have them in your vehicle to make things safer. However, automobile accidents, motorcycle accidents kill more Americans than guns do every fucking year. There's somebody dying right now in a car accident. Word is bond. So what do? Do we ban cars? Do we confiscate all vehicles? Here's another caveat, Mr. Obama, that you failed to mention, but since you opened the door, I'm going to walk through it again. How come there's no regulation or no governors or any type of technology that prevents my vehicle from going over the speed limit? How the fuck can I buy a Bugatti that goes over 200 miles an hour and the speed limit anywhere in the fucking country? I want to say the highest speed limit is in California. I want to say it's 90 miles an hour? Some areas it's 80 in the country. I think the average is probably like 75 miles an hour or 65 miles an hour or something like that. Is the speed limit, period, on the highway. You can't go no more than 75. So why the fuck are there cars being made that go 100, 110, 150, 180, 200? Why is that? My truck only goes, maybe, I think if I put the pedal to the metal, might go 100. But why should it do that? The speed limit's only 70. It would be safe. Yes, you on my, oh, you right there with me, Scotch. I'm on my way to it. If what he's saying is true, then it would make sense to make the speed limit for vehicles 30 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour, max. Why? Because it would be safer. Most people, there's such a high percentage of people, I'm talking in the 90s, would survive car accidents if those accidents occurred at a lower mile per hour. Make the speed limit 15 miles an hour. You could get hit as a person with a car that's going 15 miles an hour and fucking probably would survive it than it would be going 80. Why the fuck do they? So that means we should have limits and governors on Ferraris. So yeah, you should be able to buy this $200,000 vehicle, pay the luxury tax on it, pay the registration for the tags and all that. But that Lamborghini only goes 60 miles an hour. Why? Because that's the speed limit. That's the national speed limit average. That's what he's saying. But you don't have any fucking governors on that, do you? No, you don't. If you're going to make me have a 10 round magazine, then I should be able to make it to where a car can only go 25 miles an hour. Whether it's a fucking Bugatti or whether it's a fucking Hyundai. You don't like that shit though, do you? Let me take it a step further. How about shoes? People buy shoes all the time. You don't need all those shoes. Joe Biden tells you to buy a shotgun? Hell, buy a pair of Nikes and that's it. Buy a pair of boots. Buy a pair of Uggs. They last. You get a pair of gym shoes and a pair of dress shoes. Mr. Rogers does it every fucking day. He changes from his dress shoes to his work shoes, changes from his work shoes to his dress shoes, puts a sweater on, takes a jacket off, and that's his life. You should only have 2 pairs of shoes. A pair of gym shoes to wear around the house, a pair of dress shoes to go to work and to go to church. We don't regulate that shit, do we? It's excessive. Do you know how many little hands and feet make shoes across the world? Why do you need all those shoes? Who needs 50 pairs of gym shoes? What the fuck is a sneakerhead? Who needs 30 pairs of red bottoms? What's the bitch name from Sex and the City that got nothing but shoes? What's shoe porn about? Why would she need all these red bottoms? Well, they go with different outfits. Fine. Get you a black pair, get you a brown pair. That's it. Black and brown goes with everything. I'm not a fashionista, but my wife tells me that quite often. Black and brown go with anything. But let's finish listening to this and let's see if he actually answers the question.
Do you know that Congress will not allow the Center for Disease Control to study gun violence? They're not allowed to study it because the notion is that by studying it the same way we do with traffic accidents, somehow that's going to lead to everybody's guns being confiscated.
Yes.
When we talked about background checks, if you buy a car, if you want to get a license, first of all, you got to get a license. You have to take a test. People have to know that you know how to drive. You don't have to do any of that with respect to buying a gun. And when we talked about...
Because it's a right, not a privilege. If I fail a driver's test, I don't get my license. So yeah, you're right. You shouldn't. You basically telling me that I can't defend myself with a firearm because I didn't pass a test created by who?
Doing effective background checks, it was resisted because the notion was we were going to take your guns away. I just came from a meeting today in the Situation Room in which I've got people who we know have been on ISIL websites, living here in the United States, U.S. citizens, and we're allowed to put them on the no-fly list when it comes to airlines. But because of the National Rifle Association, I cannot prohibit those people from buying a gun.
You goddamn right. Because who the fuck determines if they get on that list or not? The government. Now, here's my solution to that. Because that could potentially be a problem. If you are a foreigner, and I don't give a fuck if foreigners get offended by this, fuck y'all. If you are a foreigner and you come over to the United States, and if you come over to the United States, hell no, you can't get a gun. Nope. No way. Nada. I don't give a fuck if you're owning a Quickie Mart, laundromat, or liquor store. Fuck that. Hire you some armed security. But once you become a U.S. citizen, for those that do get to become U.S. citizens, once you get your citizenship and you are now an American, goddammit, you still should have to wait 8 to 10 years before you can get a fucking or own a fucking firearm. Why? Because we don't know what fucking affiliations you may have. Sorry. Should have been born here. You can come over here and have access to resources make money, pay taxes, damn straight. Yup. Most of you motherfuckers that come over here get tax breaks anyway. You got these fucking loopholes that you play in the fucking system to get more money any fucking way. Fuck that. You come over here from wherever. I don't give a fuck if it's from Jerusalem or if it's from fucking Kuwait. Your ass don't get no gun unless you are a citizen. And once you are a citizen, you still gotta wait 8 to 10 years. So if you on some fuckery, it's gonna take your ass about 15 years to fucking pull it off. Fine, I'm cool with that. We have this thing here in our country where we try to bend over backwards for fucking foreigners, and I'm not with that shit. I'm sorry. Because when you go over to their fucking land, they ain't with that shit. You know what people say about going to jail? You don't want to go to jail. The best place to go to jail, you know what the best place to go to jail at is in the world? Right here. In the United States. Crazy as it sounds. Talk about our supermax and whatever. The best place to go to jail in the world is in the United States of America. Because in other places of other parts of the country, man, they don't give a fuck about you. Especially if you're a criminal. They will lock your ass up forever. I remember talking to the lady who shout out to Sammy, who used to do my feet in Michigan. She used to do my pedicures and shit for me. And she was telling me about what jail and shit was like in her country. And you know, she said that in jail, when you go to jail, you don't get shit unless your family provides it for you. Clothes, food, amenities, all that shit. My family has to bring that, or I don't get a goddamn thing. And if I die of starvation, or I die if my motherfucking family don't bring me rice to eat, I go hungry. Ain't that some shit? Pulled up in the CADILL, bumping AC hoes, AP those. And just think about that. All that shit about how you got niggas that be talking about put some money on my books and all that shit. All of that shit is extra. Because them niggas get to buy chips and donuts and cookies and motherfucking whatever the fuck else they get. TVs and laptops and all that shit they get to buy. Radios, Walkmans, phone calls. How about if I don't put no money on your books, you don't fucking eat? How about if I don't put no money on your books, you don't have clothes? If I don't bring you no shoes, if I don't bring you no pants, nigga, you just in jail in some drawers or a loincloth naked than a motherfucker. That's a do or die, Falcon Nation. It's your mind right. Below. Yeah. Just saying. Here, you get everything here. 3 hots and a cot. It ain't the plushest of best of shit, but you get a blanket, pillow, a little mat or whatever to lay on. You get t-shirt, you get a shirt, you get drawers, flip-flops, pants, looking like a goddamn orderly dressed in orange.
This is somebody who is a known ISIL sympathizer, and if he wants to walk in to a gun store or a gun show right now and buy as many weapons as ammo as he can, nothing's prohibiting him from doing that, even though the FBI knows who that person is. So, sir, I just have to say respectfully that there is a way for us to have common sense gun laws. There is a way for us to make sure that lawful, responsible gun owners like yourself are able to use it for sporting, hunting, protecting yourself. But the only way we're going to do that is if we don't have a situation in which anything that is proposed is viewed as some tyrannical destruction of the Second Amendment. And that's how the issue too often gets framed.
That's it. Motherfucker didn't say shit about Chicago, what the fuck is happening in Chicago, about the gun laws that are already there and how they still have high-ass crime and high-ass murder rates. Never say anything about that. That is Obama's whole motherfucking game, y'all. I peeped it. I done seen it. Yes, I'm late than a motherfucker. That's all he does. He tells you stories. He's like fucking an elder in a fucking village, and all he does is tell you stories about shit. You got a question about what's 2 + 2? Obama, can you please tell us what 2 + 2 is? Well, I understand what you're asking me, and I just want to say that, you know, people have talked about math for generations. You know, math has been one of those things that have been, you know, debated on and has been used to build things, and it's been around for generations. And we've had math in our schools. We've had math in our homes. I mean, you use math every day. And when you're talking about being able to use addition and subtraction and multiplication and division, those things are very, very important. And I don't understand, you know, why there are certain instances where, you know, we can't even have the CDC tell us, you know, how many people are using math. So it's like in respects to what you're asking me, you know, I truly believe that there are ways for us to find out who is actually using math. You know, there was a time when people didn't have, you know, tools to write. There was a time when we didn't have reading and writing, you know, but, you know, just through evolution, we were actually able to begin to develop symbols, to use pictures, and put those pictures together to develop words. And then we were able to actually develop speech. And then we were able to actually talk. And once we began to talk, we used that to communicate again amongst each other. And that's how we had conversations, because conversations are actually the most important thing that we can have as a people. Conversations can save lives. When you're talking about being at home with your loved ones, when you're talking about the time you spend with your grandparents and your children and your grandchildren, you know, just generations of people that are in your family, it's conversations that creates the memories that you have. So when I think about my grandmother, when I think about my grandchildren and the time I spent with my grandfather and my father and my brothers and sisters, it's the conversations that matter. So when we talk about saying, hey, you know, how can we actually get to the answer of it being what is 2 + 2? I say that math is very important, but you can't have math without the conversation. Next question. Tell me that ain't what the fuck he just did. Tell me that ain't what politicians do. Just like the Canadian motherfucker. He wasn't as smooth as Obama was, but that's exactly what the fuck he did. He mentioned your question and told you a story that had nothing to do with your fucking question, and then took that and gave that as your answer. Watch how this motherfucker talks. When he talks about anything, he does that shit. And the thing about it is that he does it extremely well. He is when you talk about preachers, politicians, and pimps, the majority of the time, they're all one and the same. They're all one and the same. Listen to a pimp. Go and watch Pimps Up, Hoes Down. Go and watch that shit. It's like 3 or 4 of them, I think. But go and watch it and just listen to not necessarily what they're saying, but listen to the way that they say it and the way they approach it. Then watch a politician. Then go and listen to a preacher. Actually, I'm going to help you with that one. Watch this shit. I was trying to figure, I heard this shit and was so fucking blown away by it. I said, this is straight bullshit, but I didn't want to do necessarily a whole show about it. I may wind up doing that anyway, but let me just show you something real. This is real quick because it was only like a minute or 2 minutes, I think. But I'm going to show you the same way that Obama just finessed that shit, finessed that whole fucking question that easily. I want you to listen to this fucking video of this direct question that was asked and listen to how this preacher answered the same exact shit. Preacher did the same fucking thing. Listen.
What's up, straight shooters? This episode is available right now on the Straight Shot No Chaser podcast. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Check it out. What is your response to conservatives that say that there's no way that you could serve the same God that they do and not take a position on pro-life? So can you break that down for those?
Absolutely.
So she's asking this dude, this is Teslan, what's her name? Figueroa, I think her name is. Yeah, Teslan Figueroa. Yeah. She's asking this pastor, Bishop Talbert Swan, about being a Christian and actually being pro-abortion. That is the question. She's asking him to explain what being a Christian is. That's talking straight. I wish I had a Bible in here to show you. Talking straight Bible. Thou shalt not kill and all that. That's exactly what she's asking him. Straight 10 commandments. This is what it's saying in the word. And this is what y'all are saying being pro-life. How can a pastor, how can a Christian be pro-life? I mean, pro-abortion. She's asking him to answer that. Listen to what he's saying. Listen to how he answers it.
So basically what the right has done from a Christian perspective is try to make African-American Christians feel guilty in terms of their theological beliefs or doctrinal beliefs around abortion, same-sex marriage. They have chosen what I call wedge issues to say that unless you vote Republican, unless you vote conservative, you are violating God's law regarding these important issues. And sadly, there are some black folk who have bought into that.
What the fuck is a wedge? She just asked you, how can you be pro-abortion and you are a Christian? And listen to what he meant. He immediately goes into talking about the right. He immediately goes into talking about the Republicans. That's what he went to immediately. Watch it again.
What's up, straight shooters? This episode is available right now on the Straight Shot No Chaser podcast. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Check it out. What is your response to conservatives that say that there's no way that you could serve the same God that they do and not take a position on pro-life? So can you break that down for those?
Absolutely. So basically what the right has done from a Christian perspective is try to make African-American Christians feel guilty in terms of their theological beliefs or doctrinal beliefs around abortion, same-sex marriage. They have chosen what I call wedge issues to say that unless you vote Republican, unless you vote conservative, you are violating God's law regarding these important issues. And sadly, there are some black folk who have bought into that. Our pushback against that is, first of all, their pro-life stance is not truly pro-life. It's anti-abortion. Because you cannot be pro-life and then tout the death penalty, justify the extrajudicial murder of black people every time a cop kills an unarmed black person, ignore the infant mortality rate, try to take health care away from millions of people who without it would be literally fighting for their life because they don't have the medicine and the care to keep them alive. So on every other...
What does that have to do with how the fuck are you pro-abortion and a Christian? He ain't said shit yet, but you see what he's doing? He's talking about everything else but the actual question.
Front, you have no problem with black and brown people dying, but you want them to be born, only to be born into an America that you then push policies that say, we're not going to provide WIC, we're not going to provide health care, and then you demonize those same mothers that you want to have those children, once those children come into the world, as being...
How are you demonizing single mothers who are aborting babies, which is what we're asking you about? But now you're talking about the single mothers who are actually fucking going and having their babies and getting on fucking WIC, getting on public aid and having babies that they can't take care of. Not one, not two, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kids. They having babies and ain't nobody taking care of them. They can't take care of them. You don't think that's a problem, Pastor? You really don't think that's a problem? Seriously?
Irresponsible, and you send them out on their own. They're not truly pro-life.
That's it. Never answered the question. And that's exactly what he tells her he's going to do.
Could serve the same God that they do and not take a position on pro-life. So can you break that down for those?
Absolutely. So
can you break that down for those? And he says, absolutely.
So basically what the right has done from a Christian...
What the fuck does the right have to do with you breaking down being pro-abortion and a Christian? But you see, what was the difference? I just played that to just point out what's the difference between what he just did with that direct question I was asked of him and what Obama did. One and the same. And I don't even need to go and find a video of a pimp talking the shit that he talked, because we all know how pimps talk. We all know how pimps talk. So that's not even anything for me to even have to go and say, well, let me go ahead and show this part. I ain't even got to do that. But all I'm saying is when you're talking about those three, the pimp, the preacher, and the politician, one and the same. One and the same. When you can't ask anybody a direct question and get a direct answer, I don't care if it's the Pope, I don't care if it's a politician, I don't care if it's a pimp. Why are you pimping out here? And if they go off into some, hey, you know, I'm out here doing what it do because it does what it does. I'm out here, you know, I'm out here, you know, making a life for myself and for everybody else. See, I'm trying to do what I need to do so we can do what we need to do, because that's what pimping is, baby. I'm not just pimping. I'm out here. I'm an entertainment coordinator. Same thing. When you got somebody who can't answer a direct question, side out that motherfucker. That's the motherfucker you need to watch out for. And not all preachers are like that, and not all politicians are like that. But the thing is, pimps, they all are like that. But I'm just saying, in the end, when you have that type of person, know what you're dealing with. It's all one and the same. And we have too much of that in Washington. We have too much of that in our local government. And we have, yes, too much of that in our pulpits, to where it has become a problem, to where it's all overlay for the underlay. It's all a ruse. It's all BS to either get you for your money or to get you to give them power, if not both.
We are now learning President-elect Joe Biden's incoming deputy chief of staff pushed for mandatory buybacks of assault weapons while working for Beto O'Rourke last year. Listen.
We are actually the only campaign with a plan, though, since some other candidates have come out and support, but a plan that supports mandatory buybacks of weapons of war. An assault weapon ban is very, very important, and we need to have it.
And have you noticed that all of these people that are pro-gun buyback, that are anti-gun, none of them have them? None of them have them? None of them like them? None of them have even shot them? None of them don't even know how they work? None of them don't even know what some of them even look like. They can't even identify some of the different guns, different types of guns. Hell, what was that lady name? Somebody Jackson or something? She was talking about a 50 caliber and was calling a .223 bullet a 50 cal bullet. These are 50 calibers. So they're not even informed. And a lot of times, what most of your politicians will do, they will have stances on things that they're not even informed about. It's just because that's what somebody told them to think. It's because that's what they think you want them to think or want them to say. They'll just say it.
But that only takes weapons of war off the streets in the future. It does nothing for weapons of war that are currently out there.
Here to discuss this is attorney and gun rights activist Colion Noir. Good to see you, Colion. What do you make of this? What does this mean for the family that owns guns?
And I just want to say, I like Brother Colion Noir. I like how he talks. I like the way that he constantly is in the fight. I ain't got nothing but respect for Colion Noir. Salute to you, brother.
And believes that they need them to protect their family.
Well, you know what's interesting is she keeps calling them weapons of war. But just a couple nights ago, I had a guy banging on my door and trying to come into my house for 15 minutes. And when I called the cops and I was staying in my house with my AR-15, it wasn't a weapon of war to me. It was a weapon for my defense. So I don't understand why they keep trying to vilify the idea of common Americans utilizing an AR-15 to defend themselves, especially considering that less than 2% of gun deaths in this country are committed with AR-15s.
Here is Biden's statement on the buyback program. He says President-elect Biden.
He said less than 2%, so that means I was wrong. I think I said less than 1%, if I'm not mistaken. But less than 2%.
Biden or his team says President-elect Biden supports a voluntary buyback program. When you read more about it, he says.
And this brings us all the way up to today. So I took you all the way back to 96. In Australia, then we went on to Venezuela, then we moved on to Canada, then we moved on to 2016, and now we're here at 2020. And you see what they're talking. Buyback.
Either sell the guns back to the government or register them with the ATF. What do you think about that?
Honestly, I think it's a slap in the face to common working Americans, because if you think about it, that idea is inherently elitism. Because basically what he's saying is either you have the money to pay for the incredible tax that I'm going to put to place on this firearm, or you have to turn it in with a voluntary buyback, which essentially is nothing more than a gun confiscation, because I don't have an option. It's either I can afford to pay the tax on it, or I have to give up my guns. The only people that hurts are people who are from a lower economic status, who are usually in neighborhoods where they probably need these guns the most. People who are wealthier won't have a problem paying these taxes. So who is he actually trying to help?
Well, with defunding police, with so many police officers retiring, now with this buyback, we're not allowed to have certain types of weapons if they get their way. It's very scary if you have a gun to protect your family or a weapon to protect your family. What if the Democrats win the Senate with these two elections in Georgia in January? What does that mean?
That's interesting you bring that up, because I was actually going to talk about that. I think anybody who is a firearm owner, especially those that live in Georgia, I think that the runoff election that's going on in Georgia right now is probably the most important election with respect to the Second Amendment, considering that the two individuals who are Democrats that are running have voiced their basically, they're essentially anti-gun. And so from that perspective, if they do take the Senate, we're going to find ourselves in a situation that if Joe Biden is the president, you would have Kamala Harris as a person who would be deciding tiebreakers on particular bills. And we know what the Democrats plan to do with respect to gun control, especially trying to push an assault weapons ban.
She said in the past she does support the mandatory buyback of assault weapons. Colion, thank you so much for joining us. Glad you're safe after that guy was at your front door for so long. God bless you. Thank you.
In 1835 in Texas, soon after a weapons confiscation request, the ladies of the settlement hastily made a...
Alrighty. So that pretty much, like, I think that was everything. If I'm not mistaken. Oh, wait, there could be one more, but I don't think so. I think we already did that guy. Nope, we didn't.
On this, let's bring in outgoing Conservative leader Andrew Scheer. And good to have you. Thanks for spending some time with us to talk about this, Mr. Scheer.
Thanks for having me on the show to give me the opportunity.
Yeah, you bet. So, we just heard from Peter MacKay. He says it's crass. It's using the tragedy for political purposes. What do you think?
Well, I think there are two very unfortunate things here. One is that the Prime Minister is choosing to do this at this time, with the House of Commons effectively suspended when the whole nation is gripped by the coronavirus and the response to it. We don't believe that while there is no opportunity for parliamentarians to hold the government to account, to question the wisdom of their policies, that this is not the time to be making important policy changes. In addition, to do so quickly off the heels of a tragedy in Nova Scotia, a tragedy which was committed by an individual who did not have a valid license. Therefore, all the firearms that he owned were illegal. We believe that this is unacceptable. Conservatives believe in effective gun control that keeps firearms out of the hands of dangerous offenders, not simply asking law-abiding Canadians to follow more rules or more laws.
Yeah, and interesting though to note, I mean, in terms of Nova Scotia shooter, 2 of the long guns that he used, yes, were illegal, but are also on that list to ban. But what would you say for Canada, and certainly on the heels of any shooting tragedy here in the United States or anywhere, there is a bubble up of concern about gun violence in general. Not surprising that people would say now is the time to do exactly that.
Well, again, just to reinforce the point, because the shooter in Nova Scotia did not have a license, that means that all his firearms were illegal. And obviously, unfortunately, tragically, that did not prevent this person evil. And what we're saying is that, yes, anytime there's a tragedy, we need to look at what happened. We have major questions as to why it took so long for the RCMP to issue warnings, how this individual obtained what seems to be very authentic looking uniforms. Of course, we should be asking questions about what happened and what lessons could be learned. But the overwhelming majority of homicides committed in Canada are done so with illegal firearms, smuggled firearms, guns coming in from the United States and other countries. We believe that it's lazy, ineffective government to take all the people who follow all the rules in Canada and say, here are some more rules for you to follow. And meanwhile, organized criminals and drug dealers who don't care which laws they're breaking, that we don't address them. And what Conservatives are saying is, when it comes to precious resources that police departments have, let's go after the criminals. Let's have more inspections at our border. Let's have bigger task forces that can penetrate criminal organizations. And let's get those illegal guns off the street. That is what will actually make our communities safer.
Right. And when Canadians are polled on this, Mr. Scheer, I mean, yes, they say, you can go after the guns and gangs, and there's initiatives underway to go after guns and gangs, and some border input on that over the past couple of years. But when you look at the polls that come in, 61% of Canadians in one of the most recent polls said that they'd support a complete ban on assault rifles and handguns. And that number jumps to 75% when you're talking about just a simple assault rifle ban.
Well, what we're looking at is what experts in police organizations tell us. They tell us that what they're dealing with on the streets of Toronto, what they're dealing with on the streets of Vancouver are smuggled firearms. There are people who are sawing off shotguns and sawing off rifles. There are people who are obtaining illegal handguns and bringing them into Canada. That is what is leading to the largest number of homicides. And we have a great deal of sympathy and compassion for people who have been affected by violent crime. We continue to believe the evidence shows that when you can stop the flow of illegal firearms, have stronger background checks to make sure that people with, for example, a history of violent activity in their life, or with mental health issues that would be a red flag in terms of future behavior, that is where government should be concentrated. That will actually have a better impact on making our streets safer. What the Liberals are so famous for doing is getting the gestures. You know, they look for gestures and they don't look at the substance. So again, it's lazy government to ask a whole bunch of people who are already following all the rules to follow more rules, to get that drug dealer who's transporting cocaine from one part of a community to another to care about what type of classification his smuggled firearm is. I mean, it's ridiculous. We'd rather see those resources and that time and energy, those people off the street and those guns out of our communities.
Well, the ban has gone into place today, effective immediately. They didn't need legislation to do it, but they will need legislation if they want to implement a buyback program, which they say is going to be coming. And so there, I mean, one would think that there would be an opportunity. Would you support at that point, whether it's at a reduced, House of Commons or a virtual session, would you support the buyback to this?
Well, as you point out, they made this announcement through regulations, which means that there's no vote in the House of Commons. But even so, when governments make major policy changes, to do so when the House of Commons has been effectively shut down by the government, I might add, eliminating 80% of the parliamentary sittings where we don't really have the opportunity to question the government for things unrelated to the coronavirus. We believe that is undemocratic for them to proceed in that way. We generally don't support Liberal measures, empty gestures that go after law-abiding Canadians when those resources could be put to good use at our borders and in our police detachments. That's what Conservatives will continue to push for: stronger background checks, more effective inspections, and task force to get those guns off our street. That's what we would support. That is what we will be calling on the government to do.
And before I let you go, Mr. Scheer, just because people ask this all the time, I mean, for those that are not in favor of assault rifles, they would say, why have an assault rifle? Why have a military-style weapon anyway, even if it's legal and looked after? Why have it?
Well, there are millions of Canadians who enjoy sports shooting, who enjoy recreational activities, the legal recreational activities with their firearms. And what we're saying is that the onus is really on the government to explain how this will be effective. And all the evidence shows that it won't be. So what we're saying is it's not a question of whether or not some Canadians do or don't want these types of things to be legal. It's what is the most effective way for the government to keep our community safe, and we don't believe, again, to picture all the millions of Canadians who have their valid licenses, who follow safe storage laws, who call to get appropriate permits when they transport their firearms, who go to and from ranges. They follow all the rules, and now we're saying we're going to ask all those people to follow a few more rules. And anybody who thinks that that's going to get dangerous weapons off our street or prevent the types of tragedies that we've seen, the evidence is just not there. This individual in Nova Scotia did not have a license. Every single firearm he had was already illegal. And Justin Trudeau should not be using a very emotional tragedy as an excuse to get a policy change put in that he's long, his ideological commitment to this is long-standing, and especially at a time when Parliament isn't sitting.
We will leave it there. Andrew Scheer, thank you very much for weighing in.
So that's pretty much talking about what they already have done in Canada. They already got it. But I wanted to end the show with this. I want you to see the Secret Service. What you're looking at is the Secret Service detail. And when you're talking about all of these people that you see here, what do you see? Guns, guns. That's what you see. That is the back of a Secret Serviceman being in the back of a sports utility van that's in the motorcade for the president. That's the Secret Service detail walking with the president. Now, these people, there you go. These are the people that are walking with the president. They have MP5s. Matter of fact, let me see if I got a picture of an MP5. You'll see one. I'm sure they got one somewhere. But I want you to read this. Never forget what this tyrant said. To conquer a nation, first disarm its citizens. Now look at what these motherfuckers have. That's the MP5 right there. Double magazine MP5 for the president. You see the detail. armored car, armored vehicle. And this is the guy that says less guns makes us safer. But yet and still, he has a detail, doesn't he? That is armed to the teeth. Now, is he the most powerful man in the free world? Yep. He's in charge of the biggest army, the greatest army ever created. All I'm asking is this. Nobody has told the Secret Service how many guns they get to have. Nobody has told the Secret Service how many magazines they get to carry. Nobody has told the Secret Service how many bullets can be in a magazine. Nobody has told the Secret Service that they have to have their guns registered and everybody needs to be able to know exactly what they carry and how many guns they actually have on them when they're actually carrying them. Nowhere. That is classified information. And I'm in total agreement with that. If those dudes want to carry fucking portable fucking rocket launchers, they want to carry RPGs under their jackets and under their coats, I'm totally fine with that. Whatever it takes to protect the leader of the free world, I'm all good with that. Right. If they got ankle holsters, if they got MP5s, M16s, AR-15s, whatever they need to protect the President of the United States, an armored vehicle, a 5-car motorcade, any and everything that they need to protect the president, I want them to have it. If they need 8 dudes hanging out the back of a fucking SUV with MP5s, and I'm all for it. I think they should have it. I think there should be 500 guns around him. Fine. If he wants 5 guns or 5 or 50 guns, I'm okay with that. All I'm saying is this. Right. If they want flamethrowers, whatever. I'm just saying this. If nobody's telling you what you get to have to protect your life, and they don't get to tell you how many you get to have to protect your life, and they don't get to tell you what kind you get to have to protect your life, your wife, your family, your children, your other fellow politicians, how come you get to tell me what I get to have? How come you get to tell me how many I get to have? How come you get to tell me what kind I get to have? How do you get to tell me how many magazines I get to have? How do you get to tell me how many bullets in my magazines that I get to have to protect my life when nobody does the same for you? I think that's pretty much a slap in the fucking face of every American, for every person, every politician that tries to go and tell anybody what type of gun control we need for ourselves. I believe somebody put it in the chat earlier, and I've said this plenty of times. I believe I should be able to own any type of firearm that I possibly can as an American in this country. Anything that the military has, I should be able to have it. Why? Because I pay for all of the shit that the military has. And number one, is that I pay for all the shit the military has. Number 2, it's my right. Plain and simple. I think that politicians should have in their mind and have reverence for the fucking people, to say we need to do what the fuck the people want and what's best for the people, because if we don't, these motherfuckers will come and fucking overthrow us. Yes, they should. They should walk on eggshells. They should be on fucking pins and needles. They should be of concern on what the fuck the American public will do. Because we're paying for these fucking politicians to do our bidding. Period. Senators, congressmen, president, vice president, fucking House representatives, all of these motherfuckers. They're on our dime. And we shouldn't be listening to them tell us what the fuck we need to protect ourselves. We should be telling them what the fuck we need them to do so that we can continue to protect ourselves. Think about that. If anybody who is foolish enough to think that this government is going to do what's best for all of us, you are a fool. And the freedoms that you have, you don't deserve. If you're not willing to fight for and to govern and to oversee and overlook your own freedom, you don't deserve it. Exactly, Mr. Chahua. A republic is a government ran by the people. The people, as Bain would say. And the fact that we've gotten so fucking comfortable, we've rested on our laurels to the point to where we feel as though that's not important. That's why we're in the situation that we're in now, where we got people fucking banning us, shadow banning us, putting us in Facebook jail and demonetizing our channels and telling us what's politically correct and what's not political, what we can say, what we can't say, giving us strikes and all of that shit. It's because we are allowing them to do this shit to us. They are pulling at the thread of the very fabric of our freedom, and we think they're not, because we wouldn't dare want to believe that they actually could be. And my problem is this. We gotta fix it. Check out the justice and how they run it. A little bit of Chuck D. But my problem is this. How is it that we don't give a fuck about it? How is it that we're not concerned? We should be in a fucking uproar at the mention of anything taking away or infringing upon any of our rights. Voters' rights, election. Freedom of speech, COVID. Freedom of firearm, right to bear arms, Pro 2A, gun control. We should be in a fucking uproar every time they even mention it. Every time they try to change it, they want to talk about it. Look at it like this. The forefathers of this thing we call the United States of America, they left a tyrannical government and they came over here and they said, let's make sure that what happened over there never happens over here. And that's why they wrote the Constitution the way that they did. That's why they were as vague as they were. And that's why they put in there the amendments that they put in there. So that it would never get like that again. So the whole thing where you have these constitutional lawyers that come and say, oh, I studied the Constitution, and what they talked about then was muskets and nah. Do I think the forefathers had enough foresight to see, well, maybe one day they'll have guns with lasers? Nope. But I believe they had enough foresight to see a weapon is a weapon. A firearm is a firearm. I don't care if it shoots one bullet at a time and it takes 2 minutes to shoot the next one, or if you can shoot 47 of them or 60 of them in a matter of 60 seconds. It didn't matter. They wrote it that way on purpose. They didn't know what firearms would evolve to be, but they did know that firearms would evolve, just like all things. And that's why they wrote it the way that they wrote it. And they put in there that nice, beautiful little portion of saying, shall not be infringed. That means whatever fucking firearms are available, don't fucking infringe on them. And freedom of speech, yes, First Amendment back then, they didn't have social media, but they had press. That's why they gave freedom of press. So that the government, because back then, once upon a time, the press was actually about for the people. Once upon a time, the press actually had integrity. Once upon a time, the press actually was about the truth. And that's why I truly believe that these social media, big tech companies, they need to be turned into public. They need to be covered, or they need to be held accountable to First Amendment standards. They have become the new press. They have become the new voice of the people. All that shit. And I believe that they should be held accountable to the same standards. They are not private entities no more. Once you're at a point to where you can actually influence society and you can suppress people's voice, then yeah, you need to be held under the First Amendment statute. Absolutely. Absolutely. If I can control who says what, if I can control who sees what, if I can control who gets what, who has access to what, ever, then yes. All the algorithms and all that bullshit you want to talk, let them get enough lawsuits for violating First Amendment rights, or them motherfuckers will stop it then. Just saying. All right, I think that's about it. I think I've said all I needed to say and all I wanted to say. All I'm telling you is that people, that when you're having these conversations about these gun rights and these gun laws and gun control, send them to my channel. Send this actual episode to them and say, hey, you should take a look at this when you got some time. Yeah, I know it's 2-3 hours, but just take a look at it. See what it says. Skim through it. Because this shit matters. And if it comes down to where, hey, they're talking about saying, this is what the new law is, and we done came out and they pull a fucking Trudeau, it's gonna be a problem. We ain't gonna be no easy win. We're not gonna go gentle into that good night. From my cold dead hand, with my slide back in my barrel smoking, that's how it would end. And I believe there's about 80 million Americans that agree with me the same exact way. I hope that this video helps somebody become a better version of themselves. I want to say thank you to everybody that tuned in tonight. Thank you to everybody that clicked the like button. Shout out to Illa Dre, who hit your boy off with a buck. Also, shout out to my man, Mr. Robinson. For Mr. Robinson Neighborhood, just showing support. Oh, shout out to my man. Let's see who this was that donated on the PayPal side of the game. You can still donate. My man, William Robinson, hit your boy off with $5. He says, for Mr. Robinson Neighborhood, just showing support, my brother. I appreciate it, man. Thank you to everybody that donated. You can still donate. If you are watching this on the replay, feel free to do just that and donate. To everybody else that has tuned in to watch the show, thank you so much. Click the like button, click the subscribe button if this is your first time checking your boy out. I am Brian Redmond. This is the Relationship Rehab, and I just want to say thank you to everybody that came through tonight. Thank you to all of the mods. Thank you to Soto Nation. Thank you to my brother, last but definitely not least, Tommy Sotomayor. I love you all. Hey, y'all have a good night. I'm so glad I got to do this show with y'all. It's been grand. Y'all be easy. Peace. That's the sexual chocolate. Sexual chocolate. Sexual chocolate. Here I am.